Neal, do you hear that alarm?
Oh no, did Coolerbot spill water on something again?
No, actually, this time it sounds like it's a distress signal from that planet down there, Fiorina, what was it, 161, I think?
Okay, let's check it out.
In the year 7510, if God's a coming, he'll make it by then.
Hello. This is Rohrbacher and Hallstrom on board the USCSS podcast, responding to a distress signal we're receiving from the surface.
Fuck. Oh shit! I got my intercom on. Yeah. Hey, that's me. Hi. I'm down here. I'm in prison down here. I think I'm the only one left too.
It seems like you might require additional hydration.
Who are you guys?
We're just some dudes. What are you in prison for?
Well, it's kind of embarrassing, but I'm down here because I was pirating movies. I actually I got caught pirating a copy of Alien3.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Ooh, you watched Alien 3, huh? Man, who's the real criminal here? Am I right?
Oh boy. Well, I guess we got plenty of room on the ship up here. If you're the only one left down there, do you need a lift somewhere? Do you need a ride?
I mean, I've just kind of gotten used to things. I'm cleaning this vent here, but it's kind of boring and yeah, man, I've been stuck here for years, and literally my only entertainment is I got a copy of the video game Mortal Kombat Special Forces.
Oh fuck. Dude, we gotta get down there and get him out of there right now.
Welcome to the podcast. I am guy who's been around way too much lead, Hallstrom.
And I am voted most promising, Rohrbacher.
And we are just a couple of space janitors mopping up the floor of the Alien franchise. And this week, we've got a guest.
We sure do.
Yes, thank you for rescuing me back there. I guess y'all can know me as Fury Prisoner Josh.
Fury Prisoner Josh.
What up?
We can drop the charade. We don't have to stay in character for the whole episode.
I know.
How's it going, Josh?
It's going okay. What's this? It's Sunday. I was a little tired today. Had to scramble to remember. Oh yeah, I gotta do the podcast with you guys.
Better watch Alien 3 real quick.
Oh crap! I got 10 minutes. I gotta watch Alien 3, which I'm all right for.
I'm just gonna base this whole episode off of bad IMDb plot synopsises.
Yeah.
Plot synopses? I don't know the plural of synopsis.
I believe it is synopses.
I think it is too. That feels right to my brain, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll just go over. What? Newton Hicks die. Everyone hated it. Got it. Okay. I'm ready.
That's about it. Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
You do a podcast. You should plug that here up top.
Oh, shit. Up top, huh? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, me and my friends Jay and Yassine do, much like Neal here has his Mortal Kombat podcast. We also have a Mortal Kombat podcast because we love the franchise so much, called Kombat Time, with a K, of course.
Of course.
We just released an episode not too long ago, and we're coming out with another one. I would say this Monday, but as the release of this recording, it'll probably already be out. We've been doing it for about over a year and having a lot of fun. So do go check it out.
Nice.
CombatTimePodcast.podbean.com. And on Twitter, we're at CombatTimePod.
Smash that subscribe button or whatever.
That's
I've
right.
been on the show. What did we say? Is it 3 or 4 times?
I believe now it is
What did I do?
4 times, yes. It might be
We
more.
did Battle of the Realms, I think, and then
Mortal Kombat 4.
Mortal Kombat 4, the
And
fighting
movie
game
tournament.
movie tournament, and most recently Mortal Kombat Special Forces.
Yes.
Where
So that is 4.
I had the task of proving that isn't the worst game in the franchise. Yeah, man. Welcome to Crew Expendable. Thank you for joining us to discuss a very divisive film in the franchise, Alien 3.
Oh, yeah.
The theatrical cut specifically.
Oh, yeah.
So, Josh, we like to get a little history, a little bit of when we have guests on, we like to ask them what their history is with the franchise. How do you feel about the Alien franchise as a whole? Are you a fan? Did you get into it early? Just tell us your Alien story.
Okay, like the franchise as a whole, huh? Definitely a fan. Definitely early. These are R-rated movies, but I think all of us probably will admit, like, oh yeah, we saw them as kids. I think my introduction was Aliens. I think I was about 8. All I remember, it was on TV. Mom or dad might have been watching part of it, and I was like a little guarded, like, what's that? And like, mom kind of like gave me like a rundown. I was like, oh yeah, it's Aliens and stuff like that. And I only saw clips of it. I'm surprised they let me, like, maybe because it was unrealistic, because like they're usually pretty good about, like, if it was Michael Myers or anything like that, like a killer, no, Josh, get the hell out of the room. But I guess because it's aliens, it's okay. I don't know. But I remember it just flashing by so fast, I didn't even get a clear picture of what the aliens were. I distinctly have a memory of the air duct scene with Vasquez and Gorman, and the aliens just shooting down the air ducts. And I just kind of pictured them as like octopus men, just because they're moving so fast, and there's like tail flipping.
Similar to how they're kind of portrayed in the Alien original screenplay graphic novel adaptations, just tentacles like crazy.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
Like you do with an alien creature, I guess. And I guess just somewhere along the line, as I matured, I just got familiar with that movie. And I think, maybe first time I saw Alien 1 was as an early teen, I think like on USA Up All Night. And, I was of the opinion as a kid then, it's like, no, Aliens is cool because it's action,
Sure.
I
the
think
kid's opinion. I had a very similar opinion when I was younger, where I definitely leaned Aliens versus Alien. Also, I got to appreciate the USA Up All Night shout out. Did the movie follow or lead into an episode of Red Shoe Diaries?
Boy, I don't even know that show. I do not know.
Okay,
I was going to say something like Silk Stockings.
That's another one. Sure.
Yeah.
I feel like they ran back to back. Anyway.
Oh, USA also introduced me to, believe it or not, USA introduced me to Sailor Moon.
Nice.
Believe it or not, I think everyone got introduced to Sailor Moon via USA.
I definitely caught onto it in syndication.
Yeah.
Like local channel,
Oh, a local channel.
UHF or whatever. But hey, if you want to hear more about Sailor Moon, there's an episode about it on MK PodQuest.
There is.
There sure is.
Your favorite Sailor Moon podcast.
Sure.
But yeah, more or less, like, I think my mom championed the first Alien too. It's like, oh no, Aliens is good, Josh, but Alien is, Chef's Kiss is, Citizen Kane horror movies. You should appreciate it. I think I came to appreciate it much later when me and a group of friends watched it on projector and all that. And I was post college, and I sunk into it and really like everything about it. The Lovecraftian background to it, the sexual themes and all that. And just, it clicked with me, and I'm like, Alien is fucking awesome. And then, somewhere down the road, before that, I saw, Resurrection or whatever it's called, and of course, this Alien 3, which I have a faint memory of when I was a kid. I think with a babysitter, of scenes of it being on, of all the guys running through the shafts, and this fucking thing's pissed off, and the NES game.
No, of course, the NES game. Yeah. This had a bunch of. There was a Genesis, Master System, Game Boy. I have the Game Boy version, which is like a top-down exploration game.
No, they did a Game Boy version.
It's not good. I will just lead with that. Like a lot of original, like licensed Game Boy games, not very good.
Was the NES one actually good? I never played it myself.
I could say the Genesis and Master System ones are pretty good. They're kind of side-scrolling shooters,
right?
But they're not. They're more of like, it's like a fixed map, so there's a lot of vertical and horizontal exploration, but it's not like full like Metroidvania, It's still levels, right? And it's running around, freeing prisoners and shooting xenomorphs as Bald Ripley.
Right.
It's pretty fun.
I think there was an SNES one too.
I think so. It's probably the same as or a version of the Genesis ones. I'm not up on all of the different ports, but
Yeah, I should look that up.
Eventually we'll be talking about those because Kenny and I are signed up to do this podcast until we cover everything Alien or the sun goes out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh boy.
So, Kenny, remind me of your history with this movie. I know it's only been a few years since you checked out the entire franchise. Does that track for this one as well?
Yeah, I started watching them for the first time. It wasn't a conscious decision to do it after Covenant came out. It was just after Covenant came out some indeterminate time after that, within a year or so. I just on a whim one day bought the Alien Anthology 4-pack of like the main 4 of them on Blu-ray.
Okay.
And then also picked up a copy of Prometheus and Covenant. And then over the course of, I can no longer remember if it was one weekend or two, I sat down and just watched all 6 of them in order. Nice. And when as I believe I mentioned in the previous episode, when I sat down to watch this, I went into it, remember hearing people say that the theatrical cut is way worse than the assembly cut is. And the collection that I have has both of them on it. So when I sat down to watch it, I was like, well, I'd of course rather watch the good version. So until I watched it for this show, I have never actually seen the theatrical cut before of Alien 3. Every time I sat down to watch it, it was always only ever the assembly cut. But now I've officially seen both versions of it as of yesterday.
Wow.
Nice. So this is the first time you've seen the theatrical cut.
It sure is.
Yeah, kind of wild. Although not really, because you're right. Ever since the assembly cut got released in 2003?
2003.
That has been the version that everyone says is the better version. And
I'm torn. Like,
yeah,
I know we're mainly talking about the theatrical cut here, but like I hadn't seen Alien 3 in the longest time. I saw it at some point when I was a kid, right? And I didn't hate it. But you know, obviously its reputation carried on. It was about 8 years ago, I think, I did watch the assembly cut and found it pretty good. I'm like, wow, okay. Like, it still contains the things that pissed people off, but I'm like, this is a good movie.
Right.
And it was only literally like last month that, maybe because of you guys, I had an Alien hankering. And 3 was next in line, and I was torn on which version to watch. I actually don't own it. I own 1 and 2. From that same quadrology set, but you know, as separate discs. I didn't buy the whole set. They have all 6 in one set too. Like I saw it at Walmart, but I'm like, I ain't doing that. I already own 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So I just watched the theatrical version, and you know what? I mean, preliminary. I'm just gonna come out right out and say it. Like, I don't think it was that bad compared to the assembly cut. It's, you know, the assembly cut's marginally better. I think the theatrical cut. Still fine and enjoyable for my tastes anyway.
Yeah, I think that this movie, Alien 3, might have been the movie that got my brother and his friends interested in the franchise, because just doing some head math here, like 1992 feels about right for the year that they were starting to dive into all of that stuff. Because I think there's like a big media push surrounding like the release of Alien 3, right?
Makes sense.
And I, you know, as I've talked about at length on this podcast, I kind of inherited Alien from my brother. He sort of face hugged me and then implanted it in my esophagus.
Love it.
That's only in the podcast in case he hears this, in case he listens to this episode. So,
and then at family dinner is when, you know, your fandom comes out, right, and bursts out of your chest.
Yes, sure. And everyone's like, "What the fuck was
fuck?
that?" And then my fandom is running around in the AC vents while my family is terrified. Anyway, this is the Alien movie that I have seen the least, and that includes the Alien versus Predator movies. I think I've probably seen Alien 3 theatrical cut, including watching it for this, maybe 5 times overall, and I think I've only seen the assembly cut once or twice. So the truth is, and also it's been quite a while since I've really watched either movie, you know, either version. I've definitely thrown like Alien 3 on in the background a few months ago, you know, I just wanted to. I don't think I paid heavy attention to it, which is a problem I still have, even when I'm trying to watch it, but we'll get into that later. This one is just kind of a weird blind spot for me in a lot of ways. And I think that part of it was the reputation it has, right? Like a lot of people were disappointed in it, and I don't think my brother and his friends were huge fans of it. I don't think it was one that got put on very often. So my exposure to it has just been relatively limited, and I don't know why I've got this weird hang up about it, because it's not a bad movie. It's got a lot of problems, but it doesn't really have any less than, say, Prometheus or Covenant or those Alien versus Predator movies. So I don't know what it is about this one.
It's probably way better than the Alien versus Predator movies, but its problem is it's not aliens.
Yeah, I guess
That's its main problem.
That is a problem for sure. But I also kind of respect why they didn't go that route again.
Oh yeah,
you know. But the I guess the most embarrassing thing is that I have definitely seen Alien Resurrection more than I have seen this movie, and Alien Resurrection is a worse movie than this one. So I don't know. I just don't know what my fucking deal is, honestly. But maybe we'll figure it out as we talk our way through Alien 3, directed with an asterisk by David Fincher.
Good man. Poor guy.
Kenny, do you want to give us a short, summary like you like to do about the events of Alien 3?
Sure can, baby.
Let's do it.
After a retcon-induced fire, Ripley finds herself stuck on a prison planet with a motley assortment of criminals. With no weaponry and no allies, she must figure out how to stop yet another Xenomorph, while also having a countdown of her own to deal with all of a sudden.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, dude, there is a countdown in this, isn't there?
There sure is.
It's a different kind of countdown, though. I like that.
Yeah. You know I love a countdown in an Alien movie.
That is specifically why I mentioned it.
I really appreciate it, man. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yep.
That almost gives the movie new points now for subverting the countdown trope.
It doesn't, because the countdowns in the prior two movies, especially in Aliens, were relatively accurate. This one it's not an issue till it's an issue. We'll talk about it. But let's talk about the crew, the filmmakers behind this divisive film. This movie was, of course, directed by David Fincher. It was his first feature film, and it was a horrible experience for him.
Oh, yeah.
Because of 20th Century Fox, now 20th Century Studios, thinking they were hiring just a guy who made music videos so they'd really be able to push him around and control production. And anyone who's seen any other David Fincher movies, that just ain't his style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Big shoes to fill to step into this franchise, right, following Ridley Scott and James Cameron. It's interesting that they went with a relatively unknown director, a first-time feature director for Alien 3, and it is pretty telling that like their thought process was, we want studio control.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they try to get James Cameron back for the sequel, and he was too busy with Terminator 2 or whatever was going on?
I think Terminator 2, yeah. I have heard that. I don't know how true it is, but that's definitely something that I've heard. Maybe was he making The Abyss at that time?
That
right?
might have been it, yeah.
Well, no, The Abyss came out in 1989, so it had to be T2.
Yeah.
But he may not have been interested in coming back anyway. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's not even his franchise, really.
Right. So with David Fincher not getting along with the studio, he, I don't think, was around to see through the end of the production, the editing and everything, right? And I think that that's a lot of this film's problems is just studio interference. I mean, there's script problems as well, but there was a lot of studio interference, and they just weren't able to get all of the shots they needed. So when it came time to edit the movie, editor Terry Rawlings had to just kind of do the best he could. He couldn't even get with the director on this, They just had to kind of just make the story work in the editing room. And I know that the film was shooting at Pinewood Studios, the James Bond studio.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And Fox pulled him out of that, and they had to do a bunch of pickups and reshoots in LA just in an attempt to get missing footage so that they could put together a comprehensible version of this movie.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So, off to a great start, right, with that. In addition, the script went through a number of different changes, right? A number of different revisions. We've mentioned that there was a William Gibson Alien 3 script like out there that eventually got passed on. There's just, I mean, we could do a whole episode, and maybe we should do a whole episode on all of the various Alien 3 scripts that never made it.
Y'all really should. That would be really interesting. Because correct me if I'm wrong, the what was the guy's name you just mentioned? I'm sorry.
William Gibson.
William Gibson, thanks. That was the wood planet, right? Or at least the monastery planet.
That wasn't his. He did. There are some adaptations of his scripts, and if I'm remembering correctly, they are primarily following Hicks and Bishop dealing with some like weird xenomorph hybrids on a space station.
Oh, okay.
I think. Yeah, maybe Gateway. I'm not positive. It's been a minute since I've checked those out. But there was an early version of this that this planet was going to be an all wood planet, like populated with monks.
Yeah.
I mean, we got elements of that in this screenplay, right? Like, I think I can't find the name of the guy who, I believe it was Vincent Ward who proposed that early version with the wood planet and the monks, and that idea of like monks sort of got turned into the prisoners on the planet with no weapons, and that script was sort of filled out by David Giler and Walter Hill, which is interesting because Walter Hill's been a producer on the Alien franchise since the first Alien movie, and this is the first and I believe only time he's like stepped in as a writer just to try to like make all of these different script versions work essentially.
For sure.
So, and he continues to be a producer of the Alien franchise through Alien Covenant, so he's stuck by the series the whole time, even on the Alien versus Predator movies. His name is listed as producer. We've got a new kind of creature design in this, right?
We do, yes.
It's interesting that the opening credits H.R. Giger with the Alien 3 creature design, but the creature effects were also co-designed by Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr. of Amalgamated Dynamics. And special shout out to Tom Woodruff Jr. He is the one who wears the Xenomorph suit in the parts where they're using an actual suit and not doing digital effects or miniatures or models or whatever, the puppets or whatever they're using.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about the special effects process in this movie, except that it was like right on the cusp of digital effects starting to get used.
I do have a little bit of trivia about effects. I could say for later or say now if you want.
Now's a good time, honestly.
A lot of people do say that, oh man, the CG in this movie is why they fucking CG the alien. The reason it looks so odd is it's actually a rod puppet in those wide shots that they composited. Right. There's actually only one true CG effect in the movie. It's actually, and
I think I know what it is.
Yeah, it's, if you're thinking correctly, it's the end when the alien, its head cracks. Right. Yeah, all those cracks form. But all those weird shots where it's like wide shots of it running and you see its full body, it's actually a puppet, but it's just the compositing is so contrasty and not good that it just looks like shitty CG.
Yeah, I didn't think it was terrible,
I didn't think it was definitely odd looking, especially coming from aliens. Right. Well, it's funny saying that because aliens, you barely see the aliens.
Sure, and there's also only about 7 of them at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense that they couldn't do suits the whole time because this is a quadrupedal xenomorph, right? So the compositing and the puppetry, I think it worked out pretty well overall.
Overall, I think so.
Yeah, but we'll talk more about the monster later. That's kind of all I got as just sort of a rundown of the crew. I don't know if anybody's got anything they want to add to that, any more information.
The only other thing I can think of that you didn't mention is that how you said that the story was done by Vincent Ward.
Okay.
I believe the reason the story was done by him was because he was going to be the director of the movie. And he came up with the premise of it, and then they fired him during pre-production and replaced him with David Fincher, but did not change the story that he wrote. That's why Vincent Ward has a story credit on the movie.
Oh, at least they were nice enough to credit him.
Right. So what we've learned is like this is like a nice, flawless production, and if you're making a movie, you want as much like studio interference as possible. You basically want the studio to make the movie, and you just kind of like follow directions, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's how you make a successful franchise entry.
In the words of the guy from the A-Team, I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
Boy, did it.
Notoriously troubled production. Let's talk a little bit about the cast and the characters,
Yeah.
of which there are a lot.
Well, there's a whole shitload of characters in the movie, but only like maybe 4 of them actually matter.
That's
Right.
fair assessment.
Really,
yeah.
at the end of the day.
Sure. Yeah, there's a handful. Mostly it's just a whole bunch of like bald white dudes.
Yeah.
Right.
Bald
Like
British white dudes, no less.
Sure.
That was one thing I wondered
Yeah.
as a kid. I was like, when I did see parts of it, I'm like, why is everyone British?
I mean, I can't
Well, they filmed
imagine.
at Pinewood.
Like, yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
that's
imagine
why.
that there's an in-canon reason, but the reason why is because they were filming it in Pinewood is why.
Yeah.
Sure. But I wonder if it was like this planet is like Australia, right? Like this is like space Australia if it were still like a penal colony.
Yeah.
If Australia was still that, right? So
I mean,
I don't know.
it is kind of implied that they used it in a similar way, yeah. So I guess that's not really that far off, honestly.
Yeah, because they did do work there, right? They did mine stuff or something, correct?
Yes. Yeah. It's like a mineral, like a mineral ore processing facility or
A
something.
refinery is the word you're
Yeah.
looking for.
Refinery.
Or
That
past
is the
tense,
word
I
was
should
looking
say,
for.
because I believe the story is that it's shut down and abandoned, and that except for the prisoners. I could be wrong.
As we find out at the end of the
Right.
movie, it is still fully functional and in working order. They just don't use it as an active current refinery anymore.
Right.
Right. I mean, but they've got it ready to go. They got all the lead you would ever need.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. All right, so let's run through the important cast and characters. I do want to start with Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley,
course.
back for the 3rd time, ready to send this character off once and for all and never do another Alien movie ever again, unless a studio backs up a dump truck full of money to her house.
Yeah.
I don't know. We talk about her a lot. The interesting thing that I noticed watching it this time, I've always had this memory in my head that like the character starts to change in this movie, but I think I was wrong feeling that way. Like this still feels very much. This is still Ellen Ripley.
I guess evolve is what I would think. But yeah, I mean, she's still definitely Ripley, but she's tired.
Right. Yeah. It is evolution of the character is the accurate term. She's not playing the same character she played in Aliens. Like she's not playing it in the same way, but she still has that like this detached aloofness and this kind of this weird ability to just sort of accept her circumstances. I don't know. It was really present for me when she woke up after the crash and she's with the doctor
Clemens.
and she's just kind of like, yeah, well, we haven't named him yet, but yeah, Dr. Jonathan Clemens. And just like the way she like wakes up and like I think she grabs his hand when he's got the needle and she just asks these questions and she just knows like what's going on. She just accepts where she is and all of that like all at once, and she's like totally fine with it. That's this weird sort of aloofness that her character has of just like, well, here's the circumstances I'm in. What's going on next? You know.
Well, to be fair, it seems her life has become just waking up at random places.
Right. Yeah. I guess it's old hat to her at this point. She's been through this before. Technically twice if you include Alien Out of the Shadows, the novel that takes place between Alien and Aliens.
Well, if you really think about it, I believe this is including Out of the Shadows. I think Alien 3 is the 4th time in a row that she's suddenly been woken up out of stasis unexpectedly.
Yeah, that's true. So she just kind of like knows the drill. She's like, yeah, I'm going to be sick for a couple weeks. Okay. You know?
Oh, yeah, that's true. There is supposed to be canonically some sort of sickness that comes of stasis, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they don't
And
address.
particularly when you're awoken abruptly, according to Dr. Clemens in this.
Oh, I guess they do address it.
Yeah.
She doesn't feel great when she wakes up, does she?
Yeah, she's got that weird, like messed up eye,
Yeah.
you know, for a while.
Well, that's from,
That was cool.
I'm assuming, the crash or something, right? Or the stress.
Yeah,
of-
it's got to be.
yeah.
The stress of lice and getting lice,
Yeah,
having to
that
shave her
sucks.
head. I don't know. She's pretty terrific in this. She's always great.
Absolutely.
I'm just a genuine fan of her, and I'm a genuine fan of this character. yeah, it feels like Alien when she's around, you know? I think it helps like set the tone for the movie and the franchise in a lot of ways. Not that I think that the franchise, obviously it's gone on without her, but this Ellen Ripley, specifically this Ellen Ripley, because Ripley 8 or whatever she is in Alien Resurrection doesn't feel the same, you
Not at
know?
all.
But this Ellen Ripley really makes the movie feel like a part of the Alien series to me.
Absolutely.
And she looks pretty damn good with a shaved head.
Yeah.
She does. It does not change her look as much as I would have expected it to. I still
No,
look at
she
her and
looks-
go, "Oh yeah, that's definitely Sigourney Weaver for sure."
I mean, that's
Yeah,
kind
can
of. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to be vulnerable here for a minute. All right, if you guys will go with me on this journey.
Let's do it.
There is not a month that goes by where I don't think I should just shave my fucking head.
You should.
Like my hairline, it's been thinning for a while. I'm not good about getting haircuts just because of scheduling, you know. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, is it time to just be done with all of this?
I'll be honest.
And
I
then
haven't
I
got a
think,
haircut
like-
since COVID.
Okay,
I shave
damn.
my head, I let it grow out, and then I shave it again.
Nice. Okay.
But I think
My-
every
the-
man approaches that stage where it's like, yep, that might be the look for me. Nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah, I've been losing my hair since I was like 16, and I didn't get around to actually starting to shave it until a few years ago. And then when I did, I was like, why haven't I been doing this for like 15 years now? If it's gotten like here's my thing. If you're sitting here going, should I do it? Then the answer is yes, you should. If it's already gotten
All right.
to a point where you're thinking maybe you should, then you've already passed the point that you should have started doing it.
Right. So if I get a little more specific, I've also had like prior to like having any kind of hair loss, just those times where I'm like, I just need to shave my fucking head because I need something to be different. You know, I've also had those moments and never given in to them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the real thing that holds me back is worrying about the shape of my head. And then and then I see Sigourney Weaver's beautiful bald head, and I'm like, man, when I shave my head, I hope it looks as good as that one.
Yeah, you kind of need to have a. Not everyone can rock the bald. Sigourney Weaver, I think, had a fairly round, flawlessly round head. Some people got the little temple
Sure.
at the top, and it looks weird. I will say too, it depends on what kind of bald you're talking about, because I don't do the completely waxy,
Right.
polished
You
bald.
don't go.
Yeah.
You don't get the Bic razor out.
No.
Yeah.
Some people can rock that, especially with the beard, but that's such a typical look now too. That's like, I like to do something different. So I just buzz it. I do the Ripley, leave a little peach fuzz on there. Even if you have a
Nice.
receding hairline, it doesn't look bad. Hell, Jason Statham can do it. So why
Sure,
not Neal?
yeah, but Neal needs to have a conversation with his girlfriend before he makes a decision like that. Anyway,
It grows
yeah,
back.
I don't know. It's interesting too that the bald Ripley is kind of an iconic look.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like it's all the bad shit this movie gets on it. The bald that VHS cover, a bald Ripley with
Yeah.
her gear ready to rock, is pretty
Right.
iconic for sure.
Yeah, and that's the version of Ripley we play as in Alien Trilogy, the first-person shooter
Naturally.
that came out in '96. I want to say 90. Yeah, something like
I think
that.
it was 96.
Yeah, they went with Bald Ripley for the whole thing. They also rewrote the story. We'll get into it in a episode soon, honestly. As far as her character journey goes, too, it was just really interesting to watch her deal with, losing Hicks and Newt and this sort of like emotion, like just her emotional journey, right?
Absolutely.
The funeral and everything. And it's just really, really sad because like, we leave aliens with this sort of makeshift family unit, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just taken away from her in her sleep. This fucking franchise just takes everything away from Ellen Ripley that it possibly fucking can.
Sure
Yeah.
does.
It put her through the ringer at
Boy.
the beginning of Aliens, and then was like promising her a new world, and then back to square one. And I think that's
Yeah,
why she's so damn good in this movie too, is because she has to, reflect that loss, and she does a damn good job at it.
Yeah, it's really, really successful. And then when she catches wind, all of the insistence of checking out, Newt's body to make sure that there wasn't, an alien in it, and learning that she has it inside her. Just the whole journey she goes through, and just knowing that they're still there and she didn't escape from the creatures. It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot. And her relationship with Charles Dance as Dr. Jonathan Clemens, that was a really interesting dynamic too. Let's talk a little bit about him. I mean, his role is in direct relation to hers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk about their relationship as part of this. Good to see a young Charles Dance, right?
Yeah. He's great.
Probably
Yeah,
the first
this
Charles
guy
Dance I've seen.
I think so for me too. This guy has talent for days. I don't know how else to describe it.
Actually, I should rephrase. I've seen him multiple times through my life and never realized it was the same person. Because, of course, I saw Last Action Hero, where he's the villain there, but he's got a little goatee.
Oh, yeah.
And then, boy, I had a blank in my head. And I never was a big Game of Thrones guy. But when the Godzilla King of the Monsters came out and everyone is flipping out because, you're Mr. Lannister, whatever his name is in that. I'm like, oh, looks like a nice dude. And he was fun in that movie, only for me to realize, like, oh, shit, he was Last Action Hero. And then, yes, going back, rewatching this, I'm like, oh, it's him again. Yeah, good actor.
Yeah, extremely talented actor. Pops up all the time. I don't know that I call him a character actor, right? Because I think that, like, he has, leading man abilities. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
But otherwise, this is a movie full of character actors. Right?
Sure is.
Like, just absolutely chock-a-block full of, hey, that's that guy from that thing,
Mm-hmm.
I had incorrectly thought for a while that Josh Brolin was somehow in this movie, but I think I was confusing him with, I believe it's, not to get ahead of ourselves, Pete Postwaite. I'll wait for you to introduce him.
Yeah, Postwaite, yeah.
I believe I confused him
that
with
guy's
Josh Brolin.
That's another guy who's just in everything, right?
And distinctive face too. You have to have a distinctive face in this movie because everyone's effing bald.
Right. It was. I will also admit this. It was really hard for me to tell some of the actors apart because of that. Like,
it was
harder than it is normally for me to do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was even harder in this movie, and I wonder if that's a part of why I never really connected with it. Because outside of Sigourney Weaver, Charles Dance, and Charles Dutton's characters, not a whole lot of people to care about in this. But
there's a couple people that have standout moments. But yeah, if you had to rattle off their names, I'm sure you'd have trouble.
Yeah, but I like the relationship between Clemens and Ripley. I like this weird sort of I trust you, but I don't know if I trust you kind of relationship they have, right?
Yeah.
Like, they take turns dodging each other's like questions, but they're like obviously very drawn to each other. It was just a cool dynamic just to watch them sort of like get to know each other.
I almost immediately bought it, like, the moment they met and started talking. Like, even if I didn't know what happened and this had been the first time ever that I had seen it, I would be like, oh yeah, they, like, like you said, they definitely trust each other, but they don't know how much they should, so they're kind of dancing around it, and it's just, it's two good actors acting well against each other,
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And he's kind of an outsider, right? Because he's sort of this disgraced doctor who had spent time in this prison, but he's not a prisoner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he's also not an administrator, right? So he's like, he clashes with kind of both groups in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So he's sort of the outsider, and then Ripley comes in as like a real outsider in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the real one, yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they kind of like find each other, and I'm really happy, honestly, that they fucked.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to comment on that. One, it's the first fucking that's gone on in this series. And,
this is the first obvious, yes.
However, if you go back to Alien, I think originally Dallas, was it, and Ripley were supposed to be explicitly a couple, but they just kind of muddled that for the actual movie and just didn't bother with it. But, at this stage, Ripley, she deserves it. I mean, she's been through some shit.
Oh, no joke. This year, I've been trying to keep track of all of the movies I watch on Letterboxd because I'm not really much of a movie watching guy. So I've been trying to both watch more movies and keep track of all the movies I watch. I logged a Letterboxd review for Alien 3 last night, And literally the entirety of my review is, quote, at least Ellen managed to get some this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
some
That's the
before
entire
you,
review for the movie.
Before you
Sure.
die, at least. That was her bucket list thing. At least have at least a
Yes.
moment of intimacy that she didn't get to have of Hicks.
Yeah. Josh, you are correct in there was a romantic sort of subplot between Dallas and Ripley that I think it did largely get cut from the movie, but we learn a lot about that in the Alien Isolation novel as well.
It was originally in the movie, and then they kind of cut it out. But since it originally was there, a lot of the Alien spin-off ancillary material treats it as if it is still canon. So things like, Isolation and stuff like that, it does get referenced again, even though it's not actually there in the movie anymore,
Right.
I would still consider it canon because it didn't show it in the movie, but it just means it's in the background because there was tension between the two of them that could lead you to conclude that they might have been a couple.
Absolutely. I mean, at the very least, like they were close enough to like boogie down. But I think some of those early drafts, it was just like, everyone just fucks everyone in space. Like that's just what happens.
Correct. Yes.
And like
when you're trapped in space for that long.
Yeah.
There's one thing I don't like about what they did of Clemens's Charles Dance's character, but are we going real deep dive with these character breakdowns, or are we going to save that for later?
Sure. Yeah. We operate. Don't worry about spoilers or anything like that because everyone's seen Alien 3,
30-year-old
right? So
movie.
go as deep as you want.
Okay.
As we talk about these characters.
I was wondering about structure. Though the thing I didn't like about them, is that they were really playing up. You kind of mentioned it just there. Disgraced doctor. They really played that up. They played it up so much that I was actually expecting something worse when he told his story.
Right.
Because they even do the thing when he's sitting with the warden, and he brings it up. He's like, "Oh, you want me to tell Ripley about your little dark past, eh?" Oh, I can't do a British accent, but you get what I mean.
Well, it's close enough.
Close enough. So you think it's going to be something really bad. I mean, it is pretty.
I'm sorry. I'm watching our analytics, and like the numbers in the UK are dropping, and we haven't even released the episode yet.
Okay, so I can do all the bad British accents I want.
Yeah,
hardly anyone will care.
Also, apparently, I pissed off Australia earlier because they're out too.
Well,
anyway,
what can you do?
But yeah,
sorry,
that's actually something I noticed in my notes too. I even have written down Clemens is being weirdly coy, when talking to Ripley about it, he's being weirdly coy for a criminal background that isn't even really that bad, all things considered, especially for a place like that,
Yeah. Especially also since it doesn't matter minutes later when he gets his, forehead punched out.
Right.
But,
sorry, my brain tried to say 3 different sentences at once. When it comes
to Crew Expendable,
when it comes to all of the characters, all the criminal characters whose background we know, I think his is the only one that is a non-violent crime. So it's strange that he's like, "Oh, I don't want to tell this lady what I did to get here," and it's like, bro, it's fine.
It's
don't
fine.
worry about it.
It's like
it's also a kind of it's a muddy story too, because he's like, I was a promising doctor, but I was addicted to morphine. But that doesn't matter for this story. What really matters is I pulled a 36-hour shift, and when I got off, I got drunk, and then I got called back into work. But I was so drunk, after some kind of horrible accident, I forget the details.
There was some kind of explosion or a fire or something.
I'm starting to get flashbacks of the Seinfeld episode where George's father puts the wrong spice in the World War II mess hall, and all the soldiers get sick.
Yeah, it's essentially that, except what he did was prescribe the wrong level of painkillers and ended up killing 11 people. I mean, non-violent, it is a big, that is a big deal, right? I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say this for certainty, but I'm pretty sure that is considered a non-violent crime because you did not commit the crime by actively hurting someone,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
because I believe his actual
negligence.
Crime is like criminal negligence or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
But also substance abuse, I guess.
Sure. He probably got, slap those charges on top as well, right? He's probably doped up on morphine and drunk as a skunk. But this is also just the story that he tells Ripley. We don't know that he was being completely honest with her about what happened either. This is just me, he might have just been giving her something because she kept asking about it.
You know what? I like that explanation. Too bad the movie doesn't actually hint at that. Had he been a surviving character, that could have carried on. But also, whether or not it was a good story or not, I guess it all just, much like Newton Hicks, ends up not mattering. Which boy, they give Ripley something new, right? And then they take it away from her again.
And then they immediately take it away from her in the same fucking movie. Yeah.
Damn.
God damn. Like she just can't find lasting happiness. She's just doomed to this, like, having to just fight these fucking creatures.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bummer.
It's a bummer, man.
I liked Charles Dance as her kind of a counterpart in this. And I mean, sad that his character died off so soon, but also that was a pretty big emotional moment. And it's when the story turns and everything. So we kind of shift from there to Charles S. Dutton sort of being our lead male, supporting protagonist. Not our lead. He's our male supporting protagonist as Leonard Dillon.
Besides Ripley, definitely MVP.
Yeah, he's great in this as Leonard Dillon, a murderer and rapist of women who has been imprisoned on this planet. Who
that must make him incredibly nervous.
Kind of finds that was so fucking good.
The most badass fucking line, not the "I'm the murderer and rapist of women," but the response to that.
God damn it.
One of the best lines in the goddamn
fuck
movie.
it. We're gonna talk about it now. He after he speaks at the funeral of Hicks and Newt, right? He has this like beautiful speech, this eulogy for them, because he's part of this like religious brotherhood that is formed in this prison. And he's like the leader of it, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm not a leader.
These monks, these celibate monks.
You ask him, he said he wouldn't.
That whole fucking scene, where Ripley steps into the cafeteria. She's the only woman on this planet. She's been ordered to like kind of stay away. Obviously, tensions are high. We have the prisoners reminding each other that they've taken a vow of celibacy, etc. She just walks into that mess hall. She goes, gets her cornbread and her coffee, I think. Definitely a piece of cornbread.
Wow, that's a callback.
Sorry, cornbread, I think. She walks up to this table where all of these, monks are sitting around, and she's just trying to thank Leonard Dillon, Charles S. Dutton, for what he said at the funeral. And he's like, "You don't want to know me, lady. I am a murderer and rapist of women." And fucking Ellen Ripley, not taking shit from anyone, right, delivers that line, "Well, then I must make you pretty nervous, huh?" And then she sits down at the fucking table with all these guys. She's just like, "I'm not scared." She's like, "You guys have no idea what I've seen," Just, that's fantastic Ripley, And you see this like weird sort of respect form between the two in that moment.
Yeah.
That was a standout scene in the movie, honestly. That was a great Ripley moment.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. He might have all of my favorite lines like in the entire movie. I absolutely love Dylan so much. He is definitely my favorite character in this film.
He's really good. Just always concerned about the brothers, the brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And, just keeping everyone, the scene where Ripley's hauling back the bishop parts, right?
Yeah.
And she's like very clearly getting cornered in like the trash room.
Yeah.
By all of these men who are they're going to rape her.
They sure are.
And Charles Dutton as Leonard Dillon shows up, starts beating the guys with a big old stick.
Yeah,
right?
this is literally this scene has literally my favorite line in the entire movie when after he comes to a rescue and he just has this big huge piece of pipe and he's just beating the guy's back with it, and like he points at her and he says, "We've got to discuss some matters of the spirit," while he's caving some guy's head in with a pipe. I was like, "Mwah, that's cinema, baby."
I'm glad you said beating the guys down and not beating the guys off, because that would have made it.
I almost did by accident, and then I had to stop myself.
It has happened before.
That
I'm
would
not sure if I
distract
cut it
them
out of the show or
from
not.
Ripley. That might be a different strategy, but beating with the lead
But
pipe.
yeah,
that was
like just the line, "We've got to discuss some matters of the spirit," while he's murdering some guy with a pipe. I loved it so much. I was like, that is the essence of writing, baby. Let's do it.
Yeah, he's like, I have to re-educate some of the brothers or something like that.
He points at her and says, "Take off. I've got to re-educate some of the brothers. We've got to discuss some matters of the spirit."
Who gets credit for lines like that and I must make you nervous?
Who knows, honestly, with this movie.
There's ad-lib.
3 writers and a story credit,
Yeah, there's so many people that worked on it that I'm like, outside of them, I'm not sure there's any way for anyone to know who wrote what specific things, There's
some good lines in this, though.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them do go to Charles S. Dutton's character, for sure.
He has another one later on in the movie that I absolutely also love.
Yeah, and he ends up being like a real hero in this too, right? Like he sort of gets everyone together to kind of fight against the Xenomorph and follow Ripley's lead, and
probably what is probably unanimously considered probably the best memorable scene from the movie.
Yeah,
i.e. the speech.
Yes. Wait, which speech? Because he has a lot of speeches in this.
The speech,
the rousing speech where speech where he gets everyone to sign up to fight the Xenomorph.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
That is my most.
I was still thinking about his eulogy because that was also a great.
The eulogy
speech.
was
like
good.
He's got
one
a
too.
lot of.
But he wasn't. He kind of goes through a journey in the movie too because he's kind of background a little bit. He's very distinctive with his eulogy speech, but Charles Dance kind of takes more of the second leading man, whatever spot. And then they do kind of do a switcheroo because once he gets offed, Charles Dutton and Ripley spend a little more time together and they don't get like best buds, but they definitely become, partners in crime to the point at the end where, he gives that rousing speech with the music pumping up. Perhaps when I watched the, assembly cut 8 years ago, that was my biggest takeaway from it, and it largely the same here, except they took out a line or two for the theatrical cut, or I should say reinserted a line in the assembly cut, because as we know, that one was kind of pieced together without Fincher's involvement. So good.
It was we'll touch on it a little bit. It was pieced together without Fincher's involvement, but it was based on the the finished screenplay.
Right. When you get to see the actual scene with the speech, when they inserted those lines, you could tell it's edited. That's an unfortunate part. You could tell it's like patched in.
But the what's interesting is like the Dark Horse comic book adaptation of this movie, and I believe the novelization as well, were based on the screenplay. So they end up matching the assembly cut a lot closer than the theatrical cut. I think maybe the novel sort of splits the difference, but the Dark Horse book is like very much in line with the assembly cut. That version of the story was out there prior to the assembly cut release in 2003.
While we're talking about the rousing speech, I just wanted to interject real quick. I was pointing at my TV like that meme with Leo pointing at the TV when during the speech Ripley goes, "On the Nostromo, we got the message. Crew expendable," it said. And I went, she said it.
Yeah. She's a fan of the podcast.
She said the thing. She's also got that great line where she's talking about how the company doesn't care who dies, right? She's like, they think we're crud. It's just the weirdest line.
And she follows it up with a big, very heavily inflected F-bomb after having said crud.
Maybe she wanted that. She really wanted to hammer that fuck home, right?
By making everything else sound less extreme around it,
Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right?
Right.
So there was a lot of emotion behind that crud. Yeah. I think we're crud. I do want to bring up that too, because there's two things I want to say about the speech. And one of them is her in that scene, because Charles S. Dutton does just chew the scenery in that scene. But the scene can't work without Ripley. If I'm going to watch a scene, I'm going to watch it at the beginning of Ripley's speech, because one of my favorite parts is when she said, that's when she drops the F-bomb. They don't give a fuck about all your friends that have died, and she chokes while saying that. She chokes on the word friends died, because she's thinking about Newton Hicks. She's thinking about, Parker and Brett, and damn, great acting.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just like, fuck.
So good.
And then, then Charles Dutton puts the axe on his shoulder and rouses everybody. So inspirational was that speech that I did use it for an alarm clock for a short period.
Holy shit.
And I when I did it, I also
on.
said, this is the perfect speech for when you find a spider in the house. Could get you roused up. But I have a small little funny antidote related to the alarm clock period of my life. Is I was working with some of my friends in the workshop. We had a friend that did like special effects stuff, and we were kind of helping with that. And what always would happen is we'd end up standing outside shooting the shit before we all break away. And it was me, Yassine, and another friend of ours. And Yassine, by the way, co-host on Kombat Time.
Combat Time.
And we were standing out there, suburban neighborhood at the street, all the way at the end of the driveway, shooting the shit. And I had set an alarm to let me know when, okay, Josh, it's time to go, because it was a weeknight. And we're shooting the shit. And my alarm goes off, and that recording starts. And the recording starts right at the part where he says, we're all going to die. And Yassine turned around. He's like, what the fuck? And he's like, oh, God damn. He thought someone just come out of the shadows and said that. It was bad choice for alarm for that period.
Hell of a way to wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Kick your jets and jam.
This gave me the idea. Kick your jets and jam.
I don't know where that came from.
Combat time. It came from... Raiden says that in episode 1 of Defenders of the Realm.
I know where it comes from. I just don't know why that came out now.
All right. You've given me the idea to set the Doom soundtrack. The Doom 2016 soundtrack is my wake up alarm.
That'll get your ass up.
That shit'll get me fucking going in the morning. Anyway.
You actually just reminded me of one more thing about that scene that honestly I had completely forgotten about, the speech scene. Josh, you just reminded me about how while Ripley's going on about like how, they don't give a fuck about your friends. They're just going to come in here and kill you because you probably know too much already. And during that entire part of the scene, Charles Dutton is just standing in the background with a gigantic frown on his face and an axe over his shoulder. And it's just that image of him just glowering with an axe on his shoulder really does just add so much to like the whole like verisimilitude of what's going on. It's just everything about that is just mwah,
Yeah, we could, and the way it's shot too. I mean, David Fincher obviously knows how to shoot a scene, right?
He sure does. Woo.
Yeah, and he does all of these low angles and everything. Like you're almost looking up people's noses. I think that was actually mentioned on the commentary. But it really it works. Like it works so well for all of these group scenes and everything. I noticed something. I think it was in this moment. It might have been just after Clemens dies when she's telling people about the monster. I don't exactly remember where it was in the movie, but it's kind of a close up on Ripley, right? And at the bottom, like you can see like smoke wafting up as if it were from a cigarette. But then when they cut to the wide shot, she's not smoking, and I was like, hey, Ripley smoked throughout all of Alien and Aliens.
Yeah,
was she smoking in this too? But then they had to cut it out.
Maybe.
Interesting.
Because like that was very clearly like I know cigarette, like a lit cigarette smoke trail, when I see one, and I was just like, man. I wonder if she's like, what does hypersleep do to like nicotine cravings?
Oh God, I always wonder how bad you got to pee when you get up. But
sure,
she wasn't asleep for 50 years this time. It is correct, right? That there is no real time skip in this. She was asleep for a normal amount of expected time. It's just that whoops, crashed on the prison planet.
Yeah, it was the abrupt awakening.
But yeah, I mean that tracks if she would have been smoking. I bet you it was just cutting room floor.
I think Alien 3 takes place like within a month of when Aliens ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only a few weeks.
Because I believe this movie takes place in early August of 2179. And I think Aliens takes place in like late June or July.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like right after.
Yeah.
It's however long it took for that face hugger to wake up.
Yeah.
Definitely looks like a nice brisk August on Fury 161.
Beautiful, beautiful planet.
Oh yes.
Other characters worth mentioning. I don't know how in depth we need to go on all of them, right? But we've got Paul McGann as prisoner Walter Golick, who is worth talking about because he's the guy who really witnesses. He's the first survivor of seeing this xenomorph like do its thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's with a cleaning crew, some two red shirts I don't know the name of.
I don't know what their names are either. I just remember that one of them has the very extremely bold choice of having a cross tattooed into the middle of his forehead.
Nice. Well, that's all they have out here.
You don't gotta worry about
just
employment.
like I said, it's just a bold look. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So Golick is the one. He ends up being like surviving this encounter that kills two other prisoners. The xenomorph just like eats him up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like comes back to the med bay, just like carried back, covered in blood, and just screaming about the dragon, right?
Mm-hmm.
What dragon?
He's like, it was a dragon. It was a dragon.
I swear I saw a dragon.
It's just this. He does sing it just like that. And he's just like, they talk about him how he's already like super unstable and convicted of violent crimes and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I liked the dragon angle. I don't know if I have a whole lot more to add to the discussion about him.
I will say, in the assembly cut, he is way more important of a character,
Right.
and I think that's probably the main reason why he's in the movie, is because his function is to do a lot of important stuff that when the company, like the production company, took it back over and edited it without David Fincher's approval, they removed a whole bunch of the stuff that was the reason Golick was there. So
because he was like sabotage, like the dragon, the xenomorph kind of became like his god, right?
Yeah.
Pretty
In a
much.
way.
And he
And-
kind of prays to it at one point. At one point in the assembly
Yes.
cut, it is successfully trapped, and then he goes and releases it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but then in the theatrical cut, he doesn't get up to too much.
I think
Yeah,
the
not
last time
really.
you see him is the sick bay scene. I could be wrong.
Well, yeah, he's shown again later in the sick bay because I forget the comment he makes. He makes some kind of comment about how Ripley should like have kids or something.
Well,
get married and have kids.
He definitely does
think.
get killed by the time the movie is over, because everyone gets killed
Yeah.
by the time the movie is over. I just don't
Right.
remember specifically which one he was during the
Yeah.
scene where they were all getting killed,
He gets kind of lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this
as what
edit
happens.
probably forgets about him because I'm assuming he's not part of the final group of guys that Charles S. Dutton motivates. I could be wrong.
Probably not.
I think he probably dies when he releases the alien. So, boy, yeah, this cut just kind of forgets about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got Brian Glover as the superintendent of the prison, Harold Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
He's your basic company man, bitch, right?
Yeah, he's like, imagine combination of stereotypical company man and stereotypical prison warden. That's this
Right.
guy.
Yeah, he's he's the guy who does the whole this is rumor control, here are the facts, right? When
Yeah.
he wants to lay out all the information, tell the inmates that there is a woman in the facility and all of that kind of stuff. He's obviously, there's a weird cut where when Ripley was trying to like talk to Golick about this dragon he saw, right?
Mhm.
And Andrews is like, you can't talk to him, he's crazy. And then she's like, well, can I talk to you? And he's like, after I've done my job, you can talk to me. Smash cut to them talking,
Yep.
right?
Wow.
Immediately. So like, he wasn't even like, that must have been like a later scene because he was doing the blow off thing, right?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I'm not taking anything you say seriously, lady, whatever, monsters, right?
Yeah.
It's just a weird editing thing. So I imagine he probably had more scenes of being that kind of, there is no Jason Voorhees kind of guy, right?
Yeah,
Like-
exactly.
He gets his in a hilarious way, and probably the only like funny sequence involving a xenomorph kill that I've seen in any of these movies. Like,
Yeah, I guess it was funny.
where was it like right after Clemens gets ate, right, in
Mhm.
the med bay, and Ripley like runs to the cafeteria where he's doing his rumor control thing and talking about, I think he's at that point talking about how the rescue ship is coming to get her or something like that.
Yeah.
Or she busts in and she's like, it's here. And then it just like the xenomorph just reaches down the vent that he was standing underneath and pulls him up and he's dead.
This is another one of those moments earlier that I mentioned where this movie just has absolute like classic lines of dialogue. Like Ripley busts in and she's kind of like out of breath and she's like, it's here. It's in the building. It's coming this way. And he's like, no, it's not. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about.
Foolish woman back to the infirmary.
And she's like, no, I'm telling you, it's here. And then all of a sudden he gets pulled up through the drop ceilings and just, this is the part that I loved. A huge spurt of blood blows out of the ceiling, gets all over the floor. And then there's a brief pause. And then one of the prisoners goes, fuck.
Yeah.
And then the ping pong ball comes down.
Yes, he's playing with that ball the whole time, and after he gets pulled up into the vent, that you do see that ping pong ball bounce. It's so perfect.
That part was great. I just love that brief pause where he goes fuck, and I'm like, yeah, dude, you tell me. You're telling me, dog.
Then we immediately get a scene of the guy mopping the blood up, and he's just like
staring up at the hole in the wall
and trying not to like walk underneath the hole because
I wouldn't even made someone do that.
I was like, that's me playing Alien Isolation right there. I cannot walk underneath those open
That is
vents.
correct. Yes.
Got to crouch. What? Oh no, crouching doesn't save you, does it?
No,
not at all.
You gotta watch for pro tip. When you walk by the vents, you gotta look for the drool. If there's like drool coming down, he's waiting. If there's not, he's not there. I played it a little bit.
But it's still.
I guess that is a funny scene. I saw it as scary.
It's mostly the mopping. It was scary.
The mopping and
the
ping pong ball make it a funny scene, and the timing of it's here and then boom and then the fuck, like Kenny said, is right. But I also found it just utterly terrifying because you could be standing anywhere and you could just go boogity and get you.
Yeah, because it's unexpected because we get like the xenomorph creeping up right in the med bay or in the, I'll call it the med bay. Sure, why not?
Yeah, the infirmary. Yeah. And it's like, they have those insert shots of Clemens and Ripley looking at each other a couple of times, and then she like sees a shadow behind him and she doesn't think anything of it, and then it cuts back to her and suddenly her eyes open up and Clemens is like, huh? And then you realize what's going on. But like another part of the reason why it catches you off guard is because, it just killed Clemens.
Right.
So she runs into the cafeteria. We aren't expecting it to suddenly get someone again so quickly.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and in retrospect, it's a tease, right? Because we learn that the xenomorph is kind of protecting her.
Mm-hmm.
So like it didn't kill Clemens to like eat him or anything. It killed Clemens because he was close to her. And it was like, that's my reading on it. And that's why it then like it killed to kill, but then it was probably still hungry. So it went into the vents to find like something else to actually eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Because that's also something that I noticed in this movie that I don't ever really remember explicitly seeing like off the top of my head. Like we definitely for sure see this xenomorph eating corpses in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And I don't remember
I
don't remember ever seeing xenomorphs in the previous two movies actually eating people. They just kill them and go. But in this one, they're like, this thing is eating these people.
This does bring up like the xenomorph's motivations. And I guess, he is from a dog this time. So maybe that's why, but it's like, this is where it's like, I think Aliens and then subsequent sequels kind of mess. Cause in the original movie, well, he's alien. His motivations are alien. We don't know what the fuck. Of course, we find out that, his reason for kidnapping people is to cocoon them up and turn them into eggs. Well, that was in the director's cut. Now we know where eggs come from. And in Aliens, it was, more or less to cocoon them up and give them to the queen. Here, it makes it less scary in a way, too, because from the first movie, Lovecraftian horror, I can't comprehend. Second one, they are the Viet Cong, I guess.
Essentially, yeah.
Here, it's a tiger. Essentially, it is just a predatory animal, and it eats people.
But that is still right. It's just like following its programming, right? Like I don't know, I'm just gonna eat. I'm hungry.
But I like that explanation that he killed Clemens to protect Ripley. That gives some depth to that.
I'm gonna protect the queen.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say, though, briefly speaking of which, I figured, I don't know if the conversation's going to come back around to this again. So since we just mentioned it, I want to bring it up real quick. This movie this movie contains one of the most upsetting scenes I've ever seen in an Alien movie.
I'm guessing it's the dog.
It is, because
it is.
I could not tell you how much I was like, please stop showing me a dog violently shaking and slowly dying. I do not want to see, like, in the assembly cut, it's an ox, and like a similar thing happens there. But like, I don't want to say I'm okay with that, but I'm like, whatever.
More emotional
I get
attachment to a
but
dog.
like in this
Dogs,
one, it has a name, it's established as a pet, and during the funeral scene, during the last rite scene, it keeps cutting back to the dog, and the dog is like lying there shaking and whimpering, and I'm like, I cannot fucking stress to you how much I do not want to see this. Can we please just get on with it?
So what would happen if that was John Wick's dog?
Oh shit.
John Wick then just kills every single xenomorph single-handed.
He's the one landing on the planet instead of the company. Just like, oh fuck, John Wick's here.
I don't know. John Wick's in the zeitgeist right now.
It sure is. Yep.
But yeah, man, that the dog scene was rough. That was very difficult.
I wished I'd re-looked
watch.
up how they did that, because I do remember reading a trivia about how they got him to uncomfortably pace back and forth. There was no animal abuse. I'm pretty certain.
Right.
They did do something though to make him uncomfortable, like reasonably uncomfortable, not like abuse levels of uncomfortable, to make him pace like that. I can't remember. I wish I would it up.
Like how they did in the first one when Jonesy's walking down the hallway and suddenly hisses and his fur pops up and he backs up. It's because when they made the movie, they had like a dog behind a wooden grate, and then the cat walked up to it and they opened the grate and the cat saw the dog and freaked out, and that's how they got that shot. I'm sure they did something similar with the dog in this one, but it's like, once the dog starts whimpering and shaking, and it's like the shaking gets more like violent, and I'm like, stop fucking showing me that. I'm losing my mind right now.
It's definitely upsetting, but I don't want to say I like it, but I like it because it does fit this movie's tone.
This movie is a lot more. It's cold. A lot more bleak. Yeah, it's a lot more bleak and cold and nihilistic and uncaring. And so being a dog tonally fits a lot better, but it's just the specific way they did it and like the visuals involved in it. I was like, nope, I'm good. Can we just move on, please?
Yeah.
I have a hard time watching that scene as well. That also might be a reason why I avoid watching this movie, honestly, because I'm sure when I saw it when I was young, that would have really fucked me up.
And see, going back to what I was saying earlier, this is also the first time I've ever watched the theatrical cut. So this, when I watched it yesterday, is the first time I had ever seen it. So I didn't know that that's how they did it until I was watching it yesterday. And I went, this is what I've been inadvertently avoiding this whole time.
Poor Kenny's sitting here being like, all right, bring on the ox. Oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, Kenny famously loves it when oxes get killed on film, so he was excited for that scene.
Yeah, I guess it was a weird way to say
it. All right, let's keep going through our characters here. We've got Ralph Brown as the assistant to the superintendent, Francis Aaron, a.k.a. 85.
Poor guy.
Yeah, he is, for all you listeners out there, he is the guy that anytime the warden says anything, he's the one that goes, yes, sir, you got it, over and over again. That's his entire role, to just be a yes man the entire movie.
He's the Dwight Schrute, right? And then he kind of takes over after Andrews gets pulled into the vents.
Takes over with quotes.
Or it attempts to.
Because no one really respects him. Poor guy.
The nickname thing was so funny because people are just calling him 85 and he's just saying, don't call me that, right? They're like, sure thing, 85. He's like, stop calling me that. And then it's when Ripley is with Pete Postlewaite, where she's like, why do you guys call him 85? And he's like, some of us snuck a peek at his personnel file when he got assigned here. It's his IQ.
Which classic shit. You gotta love it.
Which does
fucked up,
pan out
hilarious
as accurate because he has a low enough IQ to trust the company and call them in.
Right. Yeah.
Whoops.
He's interesting because he's the one who's there. He's the one who checks Ripley out, helps her find that she's got the embryo inside her, right?
Yep.
So like I don't know why she went to him. She's just had
she didn't go to him. She went to go do it on her own, and then while she was in it, he walks up to her, and she's like, "Well, since you're here."
There is an interesting thing too. Is the reason he discovers
it just feels like she'd want him out of her business. I guess. I don't know.
Think so? Maybe there's some script stuff there too that just got left on the cutting room floor. But it is interesting too that the way he finds the alien in her is because he messed up.
Yeah.
By my memory, he was trying to. I think she wanted him to look at her brain. I don't know if she actually thought she had an alien. I can't remember now. But he did something and turned on a viewing thing the wrong way or pointed it the wrong way, and only then noticed that
it finds
you got something in your chest
tissue.
there.
Yeah. Yep.
And then he is also the one who's like talking to Weyland-Yutani, right?
Yeah.
And they're he's another company. He's another suck up, right?
He's not a
company man.
Not the bad guy necessarily. He just thinks that the company will be able to fix everything. Make everything right.
Yeah, he's out of his element. He doesn't know what to fucking do.
Yeah.
And like when he realizes that the decision he made by calling them in was the wrong one, he tries to, course correct and help Ripley, and it extremely does not go well for him.
No, it doesn't. But he does, try to get his redemption there.
Yeah, he does try.
As this movie does, no one gets a truly happy ending. So,
Yep.
We do have a survivor, though, at least as far as we see in the movie, which is Danny Webb as prisoner Robert Morse.
Yep.
Question. He wasn't the owner of the dog, was he?
No, the owner of the dog was the first guy that got killed, the one that was scrubbing out the inside of the big tube.
Okay. We're just going to call him. He's just nameless.
Well, he does have a name. I think it's Murphy, but
I think
he's the guy that has like the weird goggles that he always wears. That's him.
Right.
He was the guy that owned the dog.
Was he the one, because of those goggles, was he the one who was going to rape Ripley?
I doubt it.
In that scene.
That comes after that, I think.
Okay, yeah, but that guy pulls his goggles down.
He sure does, and he's wearing similar goggles to what Murphy has, but I do not think that is Murphy.
Now I really watch
we're
it.
just not going to worry about. We're not going to worry about those characters. Honestly, there are 3 people who are listed as prisoner uncredited on this IMDb list. So
we'll just assume it's them.
A good number of redcoats.
Christopher Fairbank as Thomas Murphy.
Yeah, I think that's him.
We can move on, I guess.
But anyway, you mentioned Morse, and his big important thing is that he's one of only 2 non-Ripley survivors at the end of the movie, and he ends up being the only survivor. I would say spoiler alert, but again, if you're listening to it, we assume you've already seen the movie. So Morse's big claim to fame in this movie is he's the guy that's still alive when it ends. So
yeah,
and the company doesn't kill him either.
He came out of nowhere. He's not just the guy who's alive at the end. He sort of comes out of nowhere from my memory. Like he was just along for the ride, right? Mm-hmm. Until Charles Dutton makes his sacrifice to keep the Xenomorph in the mold where they're going to pour the lead, right? Mm-hmm. I'm assuming it's a mold.
Yeah.
And then he's the one who's like going to pour the lead, right? He's got the controls. When the plan doesn't work and the Xenomorph jumps out, he tips Ripley off about the sprinklers and to douse the fucker, right?
Mm-hmm. Douse the fucker.
And then when the company has shown up at that point, he's also the one that she trusts to like take her over to the incinerator.
I like that too.
Right? After he's been shot in the leg, she's like, I need you to do something for me. Or he's like, tell me what you need me to do or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
but he seems so willing to go along with that too. I guess he's got nothing else.
He might just really like killing women. That might be what he's in prison for.
Wow.
Well,
Jesus.
I think the movie does state that he's a murderer because earlier
Right.
on in the movie he got in her face and started shrieking at her about something that I don't remember what, and then during the big speech he's the one
Yeah.
that's in like the open piping vent way up, that like
Right.
after Dutton's like, after Dylan rather is like, we need to get everyone up, and like he's the guy that stands up first and goes, yeah, they killed my friends, I'm gonna take this fucker out. Like he's the first one to be like, yeah, let's go do it, and then everyone rallies around that. But those are really like the only two moments that he really appears in the movie before he suddenly becomes like Ripley's backup during the climax.
I think he's in that runaround scene too after that, which I do love the scene. He's like, fuck it, let's go, boys.
Yeah.
I think later during the attempt to trap it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he is one of the ones that he might run into, we didn't talk about him yet, Pete. I can't pronounce his last name. And they have that moment until the alien, they laugh at each other because they scared each other, and then the alien comes out and boogies and grabs one of them. I think he might be in that scene. Yeah. But the funny thing about him is during the speech scene, or before he's like, fuck it, let's go, boys, is he's, not wanting to get along with it. And he's like, I ain't doing this. And Charles S. Dutton or Dylan is like, oh yeah, I forgot. You're the one that made the deal of God that you could live forever. And well, he lives at the end.
And he does. And he lives, and he survives the end.
And another interesting thing, I forget where I learned this. I don't know if, well, I guess you guys wouldn't have covered this yet because it has yet to occur chronologically, but I believe in some expanded media, amazingly, Weyland-Yutani did not kill him or anything. I forget where he ended up, but he actually wrote a book in canon about this experience. And I believe, it's referenced in Resurrection. Call, Winona Ryder's character, the reason she knows about what's going on is because she read the book that this guy wrote.
Yep, I do remember that. According to the Xenopedia article on him, you were correct, they did not kill him after they took him away. They sent him to another maximum security prison. But he eventually did get out, wrote a book about his experience, which the book is called Space Beast, or maybe Star Beast, one of the two. I don't remember. Is that a
callback to the original script title for the first movie?
Probably,
so.
Because I believe the original name for one was Star Beast, I think.
Yeah.
So
this is Xenopedia saying his book is called Space Beast.
Space Beast. Okay. So yeah, he wrote the book, and then according to Xenopedia, about 30 years after the events of this movie, he eventually just died. But since they don't mention anything specific about it, I assume it was just like, old age or natural causes or whatever, because he would have been in in his 60s or 70s by that point or something like that. So
gonna freeze frame at the end of Alien as he's walking out and be like, and he died peacefully in his sleep as old man of 92. And then Freebird starts playing.
Robert Morse went on to be a best-selling author. He died of natural causes. Okay, here's something fucked up that I just found on his Xenopedia article under appearances, Alien³ comic novel, etc., Alien Resurrection novel mentioned only, Alien Resurrection, the official junior novelization.
What the fuck? Well, I mean, we already had
the weird
kids'
part.
comic books of aliens, so I guess it's not that out of the realm.
Here's the cover. All the action, all the thrills, Alien Resurrection, the official junior novelization, includes an 8-page color photo insert.
Nice.
I'm assuming junior, they kind of mean like
teen,
YA,
preteen,
right? Young adult.
Probably.
Yeah.
I was thinking like a little golden book or some shit.
I would love to have a little golden book of Alien³ That would rule.
I wonder if they had they covered the scene where the newborn gets sucked out of the window.
Woof. Who was involved? Was it Robert Morse? Was he the one when 85 was running around? I almost ran into him with the scissors, and 85 holding the scissors the wrong way.
I don't remember if that was him or not. I don't recall.
Someone just goes, don't hold him like that. Hold him like this. You fucking kill someone. That is just such a weird scene. A funny scene. Again, this movie's interesting because there are these odd, funny moments in it, right? That they're clever moments. These sort of they feel kind of David Finchery, right? All right, now we've got another returning cast member from Aliens, and that is Lance Henriksen
in a double role.
Yes.
Credited as Bishop 2, but also very clearly at least doing the voice for that Bishop, that wrecked up Bishop puppet.
Right? Yeah, he's doing a dual role, and both of those roles are Bishop in this movie. So
it's weird that he's credited as Bishop 2. Now, I know in the assembly cut, when he gets cracked on the head, he is a synthetic, right?
Oh, God, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either. I don't remember either way. So
I remember that, and I remember him having like this weird freak out of like, I'm not an android, I'm a human, or some shit like that. Like he was kind of programmed to not know that he was. In this, when 85 cracks him with the wrench and busts his ear off, he's very clearly bleeding red.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
but doesn't seem to be in too much pain either. So as a kid, I always assumed, no, this is actually the dude who created the Bishop robot, as he claims, because he's bleeding red.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't,
I accepted that.
It doesn't really fully fit together for me, right? Because the credit is Bishop 2. They can probably put some red dye inside those synthetics, make them pass as human, right?
Well,
maybe.
I do know that in the expanded tie-in materials for Alien 3, they do explicitly say that he is a human, because we find out that his name is like Michael Bishop Wayland or something like that.
Are you thinking of that, or are you thinking of his character in Alien versus Predator, which is Charles Bishop Wayland?
I'm not thinking of that, because they specifically point out that he plays two very similarly named characters in this franchise.
Boy, now I'm confused. Because the Alien VP appearance of Lance Henriksen is an important namesake of the company, right? Because his name's Wayland.
Yeah.
And then you're telling me this guy's name is Wayland too? Is he like a descendant?
It sure is.
If he is in fact human.
They never specify either way, because like I said, it only appears in like the tie-in expansion material, but they do explicitly say that his name, this character in this movie, has the last name of Wayland. Yes. Why they decided to do that, I truly have no idea, but they did. So
I'm seeing on Xenopedia, this character is Michael Bishop.
Yeah.
Then there was Charles Bishop Wayland in Aliens versus Predator, the movie, and then Carl Bishop Wayland in Alien versus Predator, the 360 game, I'll call it.
Wasn't Guy Pearce in Prometheus, wasn't he named? It's been a minute since I've seen that. Wasn't he a Wayland?
He's Peter Wayland, baby.
Wayland,
he is the Wayland. Okay.
So
he is explicitly the founder of Wayland Enterprises. Yes, he is the Peter Wayland.
But AVP takes place before that, so it's. This should be barely considered canon anyway.
Well, I was going to say there's a simple answer to that you're overlooking. The AVP movies are not canon to the Alien movies. That's how to explain it.
That's easy way.
There's enough evidence, and if you watch, and nobody did except for me, if you watch The Predator,
I've seen it.
Some of the tech from Alien versus Predator shows up in that, and that came out after everything. So I think the consensus is the Alien versus Predator movies are canon to the Predator universe,
but not the
Alien universe, right?
That makes sense. I can buy that.
They
do feel
I'm okay
more
with
like
that.
Small aside, I had a friend one time that said a friend of his, I think he wanted, it was around the time we did rewatch Alien, and like I regained an appreciation for it, like how awesome a movie it is. And he was wanting to show his friend that, and she had said something like, no, I don't think I'm going to like the Alien movies because I don't like the Predator movies. And I'm like, well, they're definitely two different flavors. Definitely
for sure.
Two different franchises, not the same feel at all. But I can understand why she would assume that they're the same because Alien versus Predator.
Sure. It is. Yeah. They go well together, but they don't need to be together. Right.
Yeah.
They're peanut butter and chocolate.
It was kind of weird how that always became, I don't know what came from the comic. Obviously, started it, right? I guess they're both owned by Fox. They're both alien creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My understanding is when they put the Xenomorph skull in the Predator 2 ship.
Now, was the comic
That is
already a
what
thing
launched.
when was that a reference to the comic, or was that what started it actually?
I believe that's what started. My understanding has always been that that's what started it, but I don't know for sure.
But it seems natural, just like what Terminator and RoboCop, even though they've had a Terminator versus RoboCop video game, but not a movie. That would be a pretty tight movie. And you could fight them together now in Mortal Kombat 11 if you should so want.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
And you can make the Xenomorph and the Predator fight in Mortal Kombat 10.
Yes, you can.
Which I was playing earlier today, and I had this weird realization that I was like, okay, it's 2023. I spent my morning watching Alien 3 and part of my afternoon playing Mortal Kombat and Doom.
Wow, you're 90s.
Is it what fucking year? What fucking year is it?
Yep.
Like, time is a flat fucking circle.
Or you could just say these properties are timeless.
I'm in a vaguely similar boat to you. I spent half my morning playing Resident Evil 4, so I hear you.
The
Nice.
remake or the original?
Yeah. Well, I was playing the remake, but
But still.
But you've played the original.
I certainly have.
What is it? The biggest selling games this year were Metroid Prime Remastered, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and the Dead Space or Callisto Protocol or whatever. It's like, yeah.
It would be Dead Space because Callisto Protocol came out last year.
Okay. I get them mixed up. So, yeah.
I bought both of them day one, so...
Nice. Lance Henriksen is Bishop 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to mention one thing about him too.
Yeah, it's nice to see him.
It's nice to see him,
and
but I got two problems.
Super creepy and menacing.
Oh yeah, he is
hear it.
super creepy and menacing. I do and don't like it because one, it almost feels like a forced. Hey guys, remember Aliens? But I guess we do kind of need that since we don't have a Newton Hicks to say, hey. At least there's one familiar face. And I liked the scene where he's Bishop. He's the animatronic, and she has a conversation with him. And that very philosophical, I don't want to keep existing anymore. So she essentially is, ends his life, quote unquote.
Yeah, he begs her to euthanize him. Yeah, that was wild.
Right.
Yeah. But the problem I have with Bishop too, or whoever the hell he's supposed to be when he comes in, is specifically how they wrote it in. Besides feeling like I think he's the part where I think it feels forced. I didn't have a problem with the android. When they say that the company sent me so you'd have a friendly face. Well, as far as they know, Ripley hated his guts.
Yeah.
Right. They don't fucking know.
Yeah. The bonding happened once they landed on LV, whatever the planet's called.
Right. But didn't Robot Bishop have
upload his stuff
where he said the company knew everything that happened?
Yeah, you might be.
And that
right.
wasn't him. He wasn't. I don't think he was being a spy or anything like that. But I think he's just like, it's the company. They know.
He's synced
like,
to the
that's
cloud.
just that's just how their tech operates. They can see everything that happens through Bishop. That's just
that makes
how
sense.
they've designed their tech to work.
Okay,
Right.
criticism rescinded, and that makes sense actually.
Here, I got a criticism of Bishop 2 and the way he's trying to talk her into like, come on, we'll get the thing out of you
And kill it.
We'll kill it. We'll save your life. And she's like, what guarantee do I have that you'll kill it? And, he's playing along, but like, he's really like not incentivizing her because she's in a position where she's like, I can just kill it myself.
Yeah.
He's hoping that she wants to live and survive more than she wants to kill the thing.
Yeah.
And that's just not Ripley. Right? Like they should, I feel like Wayland Yutani at this point should fucking know that that's not Ripley's bag.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Like she wants to save people, but when she can't save people, she wants to like, well, no, that's it. She just wants to save people, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm just going to kill this thing so that it doesn't get out.
I guess they forgot that it was her idea to nuke the entire place in the previous movie,
Right.
Well, maybe they didn't know that because Bishop wasn't in that scene, so he wasn't recording when she said that.
Yeah, maybe.
Or that she blew up the fucking Nostromo for the same reason.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was that.
So it just feels like a weak plan, and like if all they've got is let's appeal to her familiarity with a synthetic, which is it's weird to me that they call them droids in this movie.
Yeah,
Right.
they sure
That
do.
feels so because that's such a Star Wars thing. They just call them droids.
Yeah.
That's a good
But
point.
it was just a bad plan. I don't know. They should have sent a synthetic that looked like Captain Dallas or some shit, right? Like that would
You
have
know, been real fucked up.
They should have sent a
Send a newt.
synthetic. Yeah,
that would be fucked up.
that would have been real fucked up. Or send like Newt's parents or people claiming to be Newt's. Well, no, she knew her parents were dead. Newt's grandparents.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that would have definitely ticked something in Ripley's heart, probably. But maybe they just underestimated her because most people do
Right.
want to live, even if faced with
Right.
a situation like this. There's a self-preservation instinct, so maybe they figured worth a shot.
Yeah, but she don't have it. She's a realist.
Yeah.
Anyway, finally, shout out to character actor legend Pete Postlethwaite as David Postlethwaite. I hope I'm saying his name right.
That sounds right.
This is a guy. He passed away in 2011, I believe, but he was in like Inception, The Town, The Omen, Aeon Flux. Sorry, the Omen remake specifically. Maybe the original. I don't know. He's Lost World. He was. I don't think the main hunt was.
Yeah,
no,
he's the
he
main
was
hunter.
he was the guy. He was the guy in Lost World. Yeah, he was the guy in Lost World that got ripped in half by the two T-Rexes.
No.
Him.
He was
Yes.
he was the I'm done dealing in death. He was the safari dude. For real.
Who was the guy that got ripped in half?
I
Oh,
don't
well,
know,
it
he
doesn't
was
matter. We're not
he
here
was
to
a
talk
chubby
about
guy,
Lost World.
chubby
so.
guy that got ripped in half in Lost World. Also traumatic scene from my childhood. Way more traumatic than R-rated Alien
Sure.
3 could ever been.
You mentioned he was in Lost World, and I had completely forgotten that he was also in Inception. I'm sure
Yeah.
there are other things, but like those two movies and this are the only things I can think of off the top of my head that I know for a fact I've seen him in. But
Mhm.
like Lost World is primarily what I recognized him from, which ironically came out after this did.
Have you seen the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet or Romeo plus Juliet? Because he's in that as well.
If I did, we watched it in class during high school, which means I was not paying attention.
Gotcha. 102 acting credits. This guy, like,
Yeah, I'm looking
got
him up
around.
now. 'Cause I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
like you did make a point in the notes to really call him out, and I'm like, what have I seen him in? Completely forgot about the Lost
I
World.
did. He's just one of those guys. He's got such a unique look that I
Mhm.
feel like everybody has seen something that this guy is in
Oh.
outside of Alien 3.
This will be
probably.
interesting. He was in the Rutger Hauer movie Split Second, which, if you recall, I remember what we're watching in the 90s is Alien ripoff. At least it looked like in the cover. So that kind of little overlap
Okay.
there.
And Neal, if you recall our list of alien-like movies that we have a doc of, Split Second
Uh-huh.
should be on that list.
Probably is.
Okay. All right.
saw it way too young.
We'll be seeing him again at some point.
And I think I may have stopped watching it because it was too violent, actually. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. Obviously, I was a kid.
I've never seen the movie. I don't even think I've heard of the movie.
I've heard of it, but I definitely have never seen it. I can say that for a fact.
Oh, wait. This can't be right. He's in the original Jurassic Park?
That doesn't. feel
That
right.
does not sound right to me.
It lists it. Let's see if it actually lists his character name, unless it's like just has it by association.
Yeah, I do
There
not
he is.
recall him being in the first one.
Oh, okay, but no, he's there with Vince Vaughn too. I guess it's just the franchise, not the movie itself. That's
Ah.
stupid, confusing.
Yeah. This guy's just got a look to him, you know.
Yeah, he's
And he's
one of
had
the
a hell of
few
a career.
people. He's one of the few people that I immediately recognized the moment they came on screen in this movie. You know, because as
Yeah,
we were discussing earlier, most of the people, it's kind of hard to tell them apart from each other. I could always tell him every time he was on screen. You know,
I put him on the discussion list because you just see him in everything.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
All right, but that's it. We're okay. So we're an hour and 50 minutes in roughly. Let's talk about the aesthetic of this movie because it feels very different to me than the previous two movies.
Very much so.
It's first of all, there's a lot more light in this than I feel like there was in either of the other two.
There
more
sure
like
is.
natural,
Yep.
like certainly natural light.
It's very orange.
It's very orange. It feels very dry. There is water on this planet because that's where the EEV crashes,
Yeah,
right?
right.
yeah.
But everything else feels dry versus like the humid environments of Aliens in particular, where everything was just wet. right?
Yeah.
And then the Nostromo outside of the living quarters also felt very like the Nostromo felt like it's just the whole place is going to smell like, cigarettes
Mm-hmm.
and be smoky, and then
I'm
like
thinking
very humid in the other areas.
very stale air vents is what I imagine.
Yeah. But it's also got a whole lot of like humid, below decks. There's that chain room
Where Brett got killed.
where Brett got ate, right?
Yeah.
And then this movie just feels extremely hot and dry.
Mm-hmm.
The sets are really cool. I mean,
Yep.
like you go to Pinewood for that kind of quality. I think they've got a very large sound stage, right, where you can like build pretty large set pieces and like really, really good craftsmen and everything building them. Their whole thing, from what I understand.
That's good, because I would incorrectly think of this movie as like at least the big budget version of the trend where you get your straight to video sequel and just film it characters wandering around dark hallways type thing.
Yeah.
But that is disingenuous, because
Like
you're right.
Doom Annihilation.
God, I haven't seen that. I would think like Doom with The Rock or
Also that
or
one.
the Carnosaur 2, which is a beat for beat repeat of Aliens. Stuff like that. But
Add it to the list, Kenny. Carnosaur.
oh yeah,
2.
actually, if you
Carnosaur
haven't
2,
seen
you
it,
got
it
it.
literally is beat for beat, including the helicopter scene and the Brent character, or Paul Reiser character, everything. Run, don't
Amazing.
walk to see Carnosaur 2. I actually quite enjoy it.
I'm probably gonna walk, but all right.
but no, you're right. There are some good sets, but I really would have liked to see more of the planet, like the outside world.
Yeah, I mean, we're given sort of the information that's a really harsh environment, and they make that comment that it's going to be like 40 below in a matter of seconds.
Oh yeah,
So there's something going on with like the rotation of the planet, and I think that was intentional, because you put something like this on a ship, there's automatically this claustrophobia, right?
Yeah.
You put something like this on a planet, you have to like find a way to create that claustrophobia.
that's true.
So it seemed like they were doing something with like, no, like we're not going to, it's going to be way too cold out there for us to survive.
Yeah.
So we're going to stay inside this hot, mineral refinery plant.
But the air quality there is awesome.
Well, those big giant fans moving, that's moving a lot of air.
Oh, that's true.
And blood and guts also.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know. Aesthetically, I thought the movie looked pretty great. It is reminiscent of, in my head, I can't get the Crow City of Angels out of my,
I can see it.
I just want to compare it to that for some reason. And
See,
I don't know that that's entirely accurate.
It's funny that you say that, because the comparison point that like the sets and like the aesthetic and stuff kept making for me, and maybe it was just because everyone was bald, but it kept reminding me of Pitch Black.
Pitch Black, yes, 100%. That Pitch Black owes a debt to this movie,
Because,
I think,
like,
in particular.
The whole thing about Pitch Black is that they're wandering around a desert, and like to me,
Right.
this movie is like if you were able to make the desert be a building rather than outside. Like if you condense the entire desert into a building, it would look like the refinery in Alien 3,
Sure. Wasn't one of the Resident Evil movies set in like a desert wasteland?
The third one.
Yeah, but I would say I don't know which one because I've only seen a couple of them. So
That would be Resident Evil
Okay.
Extinction, and it's almost set entirely in the day. And they specifically chose that because they wanted to try to do horror
Interesting.
in the daylight. And I think they were looking towards, obviously, Road Warrior or Mad Max as an inspiration.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit of Cormac
Yeah, and
McCarthy
this-
in there. Throw that in there, too.
Gotcha. This has some of that too, it's like the goggles and the shaved heads. Like it was giving me Fury Road
A little
vibes,
bit.
Mhm.
specifically,
And the British.
obviously, yeah, that too.
Yeah,
And the one and Nicholas Holt was in this movie screaming, "Witness me."
he sure was.
No, come on, he wasn't even born yet. I don't think he might have been.
He might have been. I don't know how old he is.
Yeah, the movie, I think it looks good. It looks interesting. It looks different from the other two.
Mhm.
Some of this there's some issues with the light that don't work for me. Like it was harder. There's a weird scene where Ripley goes looking for the Xenomorph because she wants to test out this theory that it's not going to kill her, right?
Yeah.
And there's this scene where she sees it and it's standing there like on all fours and she's sneaking up on it and she's talking to it and then she hits it with a pipe, or stabs it. She
Mhm.
goes to stab it, but it wasn't actually the xenomorph. It was a pipe that looks nothing like a xenomorph, and a bunch of bugs fall out of
Yeah,
that pipe.
that was. I'm going on record right now. That was absolute bullshit. That was an alien. There was a xenomorph there,
There was
and then they edited
full
it
ass-
out. There was a xeno. I'm telling you right now,
Well,
that is
yeah.
maybe
bullshit.
she was hallucinating a
Right.
little bit. She's tired, might be dehydrated. She's getting crazy.
Yeah.
She's got an alien inside of her.
Maybe. That's the way to brush it off. But then the xenomorph was like in the ceiling behind her at that point.
Yeah.
So I really think they were trying to show like, no, she saw it, but it's slinked away or something. It was way too bright. Like we saw that clear as day. That
like
scene
it
needed-
was way too obviously and clearly a xenomorph.
Yeah.
Like that scene in the first one in the chain room where the alien's like hanging there on the chains, but if you don't actively know to look for it, it looks like it's just part of the background. They could have done that for this, but no, they very clearly and obviously put that xenomorph right there just for them to go, oh no, it was just a pipe filled with bugs for some reason.
But oh no, it's actually behind her.
Yeah.
It was like someone bumped the dimmer and turned the lights up, and they didn't catch it before they started rolling. I don't know, man. Well, even when the guy who dies first, falls into the fan.
Yeah.
When he's like looking down in that hole and he thinks it's his dog, you get a pretty clear look at the xenomorph at that point too, right? Like that should have been darker as well. We get a lot of clear like I could draw this xenomorph from memory. I've seen it so much, and I can't say that for either of the other
That's
movies.
because they
so
don't
far.
need to do. This is movie 3 now. We're familiar with the creature to the point where it's less scary in a way. Like it's still scary in a mortal level, like I said, scary like a tiger is. But I guess there's no need to throw it in the shadows as much. Just get the boogity monster out there.
But they were still trying to do the thing where it's in the shadows. And if I compare that to Alien Covenant, a good movie.
What?
You heard it here first.
What?
Folks.
Well, they did not hear that here first because we've already done our Covenant episode, dog.
I'm already I'm on record as
Yeah.
being surprised how much I like. I'm surprised I liked it, but I
Maybe
did.
I need to get
and I
that a
rewatched
second
it not
chance.
too long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, your mileage will surely vary.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. It's like, it's not surprising to me that the movie was good because he was trying to make a movie that was good. It's not like he
Good
was
point.
going in there to try to make some shitty piece of crap. It's like he was attempting to make it good, and he's like good at making movies. So,
Yeah.
Mm.
But like the scene in that with the praedomorphs, I think, is that what we decided they were called? The sort of proto xenomorphs, not the white, not the neomorphs, but the ones that look more like the alien. When they're running across that thing and it's light outside, that's fucking terrifying. And those things, and they're on the landing skiff.
Yeah, you see them very bright, very clearly, and very obviously, and it still worked, baby.
And it works, and it was like, it was intense and scary and
Maybe
everything. And I just
do
think
need to
that
rewatch
this movie,
I don't remember that scene. I only remember them running in the field at night or whatever and killing people. Is that the scene y'all
that
talking
also, no, this is towards the end of the movie when they're getting off the planet. Not the end, but towards the end. Give it another watch, honestly. Like there are some fantastic set pieces in Covenant. There really, really are that I think still work really well. But there was too much light sometimes and then not enough light other times. It was just a very weird aesthetic. I still think the movie overall looks pretty great. And we talked about the special effects earlier. They work for me fine. Special effects like that are going to be dated. I don't mind stuff like that. Like sometimes it's real bad. Like the Matrix Reloaded has some real shitty CGI fights in it, right? But like I don't hate the Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man special effects. I think those still look fine enough. They don't take me out of the movie
because that was acceptable for the time. And
right.
even the
special effects in this,
people hate the rod puppet.
Doesn't take me out of.
But
the
the creature itself, like when you get to the classic alien man in suit and animatronic head, looks as good as ever. Like in my opinion, say what you will about it not having pipes, the design.
Yeah, it's a runner. I mean, they don't. Yeah. Credit to Tom Woodruff Jr. who was in the suit. The Xenomorph suit does look pretty great in this.
Agreed.
And I like that they went back to the classic smooth head instead of the Stan Winston ridgy head.
Same. Same.
Yeah.
I've gone on record before. I don't like the ridges.
We prefer, neither with potato chips or with xenomorphs. We're not a fan of the ridges.
I'm okay with either.
Christ.
Ridges may be a tad bit over designed. The smooth works.
Yeah, I remember just trying to figure out what that meant. Like, are they just older? Like, does it start smooth and then it gets, ridgy when they get older?
I don't think they thought about that.
And then the toy line, I want to say the toy line called the ones with the ridges the Scorpion Alien,
Correct.
which is a weird. And then they had the Warrior Alien, which had the smooth head.
And you were talking your last episode too about the Gorilla Alien. I
Yes.
did the Leo DiCaprio pointing thing when you brought that up because yes, I did have the Gorilla Alien toy. You could dip its head in
Nice.
water and squeeze its head, and it would fill up with water, so you could squirt acid, quote unquote.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Classic gorilla behavior of spitting.
absolutely.
acid.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
Speaking of spitting acid, the runner can do that in this movie.
the runner in this, it spits acid at the guy, and that's why he falls into
Oh,
the
yeah,
fan.
that's true.
New,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is that the
I
first
actually have that
canonical?
written in my. It is, yes, and
Yeah.
I have that written in my notes. I described it as he got Jurassic Parked, is how I phrased it.
It's also, I don't think really canon anymore. We're going to talk about Fireteam Elite here for a second. Fireteam Elite taught me that warrior aliens have the ridges, unlike the toy warrior alien, which had the smooth head, and that these little guys are runners, and runners are typically birthed from quadrupedal, sources, right?
Mhm.
So oxen, livestock, all of that kind of stuff.
Dogs.
And that is a completely dogs, of course.
Cuties.
And it is a completely different strain of xenomorph that can spit acid.
Oh,
Those also show up in like the Alien versus Predator games, and they are called spitters. Yeah, there's not a lot of consistency with this, but that dude, that runner, the dog alien in this, as we used to call it when I was a kid, absolutely spits acid. And so does the face hugger when it's cracking
That's
into
true.
the cryopods. Let's, we're talking about it anyway. Let's just keep talking about the fucking monsters in this movie.
and that
right?
So when you bring up that, I mean that assuming that was an original ability of the facehugger, because I don't know if you've covered it before. How the hell does it get inside Kane's helmet in the first movie? Right, same thing, right?
Yeah, that was covered. I believe they discussed that we just had that discussed in River of Pain, which is a novel sort of adaptation that tells the story.
They discussed it in something that we covered. It may have been River of Pain. I don't remember specifically what, but like basically the gist of it is that it grabs onto his helmet and then it can secrete acid out of its body to burn through the glass and get inside of the helmet. That's how it's able to do it.
But just enough so it
and we
doesn't
sort of see that
hurt him too, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I think the stuff sort of neutralizes pretty fast, maybe.
But
Right,
but the opening scenes of this movie, like, I don't know if anyone else had the same vibe from it that I did, but like that's not what seemed to happen during that scene at the beginning of the movie.
I'm going to say it. I don't know what the fuck happens. I don't know how many face huggers there are. I don't know who got one and who didn't. I don't understand. There was one egg. I don't even fucking understand how the egg got on the Sulaco, particularly got into the cryo bay. I don't understand it.
Well, the implication that the movie gives is that the egg got there when the queen was riding on the thing
We can only
during
assume
during the events of Aliens. It left it left an egg there that we did not see during the events of that movie. And then from my understanding, this is what happens at the beginning of Alien 3. Everyone goes into hypersleep, the egg hatches, and the facehugger crawls onto the pod that Ripley is on. And then after that, what happens is, because, these scenes are very quick and they're interspersed with the opening titles. What we actually see happen is the facehugger crawl up on a pod. We don't actually see which one, because that's part of the plot twist later when we discover that it was Ripley. So therefore, right now, we don't see which pod it is. But we see the facehugger crawl up on one, and then we hear the sound of glass breaking, and then we see acid drip onto the carpet maybe or something. And so I'm guessing what happened is that even though ancillary material depicts facehuggers as having the ability to exude acid to like get through glass and stuff, that happened in a story that was released after this movie. So I think what they're implying happened is the facehugger was trying to get to Ripley and couldn't get through the glass and broke the glass, cut itself on the glass, and then bled acid onto the floor, and that's what caused the electrical fire. I'm not saying that's what happened. What I'm saying is that that's how my brain processed the events that were shown in the movie.
That's how my brain processed it also as a child, until this viewing where he says that the acid burns were found on like Newt's cryopod, right? The doctor says that. And I was like, oh, so when I saw him, the thing bleeding, it was bleeding on the Newt's cryopod. It was spitting acid to break through that. It changed like my read of the thing. But I was absolutely with you that it seems like it breaks glass and gets cut, and then that's what starts the fire. That makes sense too.
Like,
you know?
I mean, the fact that you see like, an acid burn on the side of Newt's tank, I don't really like know how to explain that away, because the movie is very explicit that it wasn't on Newt. And when we see it break into a pod later, later we find out it was Ripley's. So I don't know how to explain why Newt's pod has acid burns on it, but my understanding is that it was trying to get into Ripley's pod and accidentally cut itself, and that's the acid that started the fire.
I can kind of explain it. I think you told me this, actually. And I think you told me this about the context of, in our Newt's Tale episode, you told me about this in regards to the Alien³ comic book, which, as we already said, was kind of based off the original script. It was scripted for the movie as well, that the facehugger was going to originally implant onto Newt. And the embryo, the chest burster, was going to decide that she wasn't a viable host, and it was going to crawl out of her mouth and then crawl into Ripley. Into Ripley.
As if we didn't do enough traumatizing stuff of Newt already in this movie.
Right. So that would explain why maybe there were acid burns on hers, because that was planned to be done, but then they just didn't actually get it shot for
that
the movie.
Tracks. It also makes me wonder, like, do aliens, would they prefer a fully matured host? Would a child be like, oh, it doesn't have the nutrients or whatever is needed to gestate a alien?
It might have been because this was a queen, it might have required a different type of host. I don't know.
Also, I'm just...
Maybe it was just a larger host.
Wondering during this whole discussion, you guys might have the answer, but I don't recall. Isn't Ripley's pod, when they recover her, completely intact?
No, you can see some of the glass is broken away. It's kind of a weird shot, but like you can see it.
Also,
because I looked for that too, because I'm trying to figure out how with one face hugger, how did two things get impregnated?
That's the other
I can
idea.
answer.
The two eggs, right?
I'm pretty sure I can answer that question.
Or it's a queen facehugger that can lay twice.
The reason why one facehugger was able to implant two different people was because there was not one facehugger, there was two.
There are two. We saw one egg.
The movie does not ever actually canonically say there was more than one facehugger, because to my knowledge, we never see what happened to either one of the facehuggers, the one that was on Ripley and the one that was on the dog. We never see actually what happens to either of them.
Right. But
I do remember reading on Xenopedia, and they had a citation for this. I just don't remember what the citation was to. They do say that in some spin-off and like expanded universe material, it has been established that an ovomorph that has a royal facehugger in it, it is possible for there to be multiple facehuggers in one egg if it is specifically a royal facehugger egg.
That makes sense.
So I think the easiest explanation is that since it is established that this was a royal facehugger, there is something that says that facehugger or royal ovos can have multiple royal huggers in them, and I think that's how to get around and explain that.
Gotcha.
And it
but
makes sense that the Queen would have laid this too.
That's right. Yeah, that's retconning, right? As the movie is on its own, it doesn't track and it doesn't make
Correct.
sense.
They do not explain that in this movie, and the thing that does give it an in-canon justification was created several years after the fact. So yes, in the context of the movie, it doesn't actually make sense and never gets explained. That is correct.
It's always bothered me. I've never been able to work it out. You probably remember from the Aliens discussion, Kenny, that I have enough trouble buying that the Queen was able to successfully make it onto the dropship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so then to hinge the beginning of your Alien 3 movie on that thing that was already hard for me to accept, it makes me lose it even more, because now I have to buy that the Queen got on there with an egg as well. Like, it must have just had one more in the chamber, I guess.
Well, and
was able to stick that thing up like on that weird upside down angle somewhere.
And that's another thing that this may literally just genuinely be me not remembering it correctly, but I thought that in Aliens, the Queen was never on the dropship. The Queen, like, got up in, like, the wheel well underneath it and then dropped out from there to attack them at the end. Like, when was the Queen ever actually on the dropship to lay an egg inside of it? You know?
So it may have laid that egg inside that landing well as well.
Maybe. I don't know.
Like because it rode like on the outside, it rode up the ship. Or did we make the joke that the Queen got launched into space when the place blew up and just landed on the Sulaco?
She was blown clear and landed here. Yeah, I got you.
Like she let out like a goofy yell as she flew into orbit. Yeah, it just doesn't track. It doesn't make sense to me. But there's no point in getting hung up on it anymore.
The gist of it is, the expanded universe has information on it that can justify it in canon after the fact, but the movie itself never actually explains it. So
right. So while we're talking about monsters, we should of course talk about the monster that is 20th Century Fox for fucking up this production and making confusing scenes like this happen.
Yeah. I mean, having seen the assembly cut multiple times, I'm trying to picture in my head what, the version of this movie would have looked like that actually was fully David Fincher's vision. And having seen his other movies and liking, well, not all of his movies, but the ones of his that I've seen, I've liked pretty much all of them. There is a genuinely great movie here, and the fact that it's not as good as it could have been is entirely not his fault.
Absolutely.
Right.
I don't think anyone blames him.
Sure.
Yeah.
However, he is a monster for killing off Newt and Hicks in the opening. Listen, I understand. He's on record. He was saying, I think he said this to the editor or to some of the people. He's like, I want to open this movie. He's like, I'm making a snuff film in space, is what he said. He's like, I don't want anyone to think that anybody is safe. Like, that was his intent with this. So killing off two survivors of the previous movie in the opening credits, one of them being a 12-year-old girl, the other one being clearly a fan favorite character, Corporal Hicks, right? Like, it sucks. Like, I understand the necessity of it for this story. It still bothers me because here's the thing. I'm going to talk about Newt a little bit here, right? Poor girl. We've read Newt's Tale. We've seen Aliens. We've read the Mark Verheiden Aliens comic. We've seen what has happened to her. Every story she's in, it's just trauma. It is nothing but fucking trauma, right? Like this franchise just kicks the shit out of that character so hard, man, and it sucks. Like, I guess you could argue that at least Fincher gave her like a peaceful death, right? Didn't look that peaceful in the opening.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm hoping she slept. I'm hoping she slept through it all. You know what I mean?
Watching the movie recently, I totally forgot that there was that fucking brief second shot of her in the cryo tube with her mouth gaping open.
Yeah, the tube was just filled with water.
It was obviously it wasn't the real actress because she wasn't in this movie, but it was just prosthetic. But I was like, Jesus God. That's horrifying to look at.
Hopefully, like she didn't wake up when she drowned.
Hope so.
Yes, but like
or hope not.
I don't know. It does fucking rub me the wrong way to just like unceremoniously kill those characters because I care about those characters. I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, I'm okay with it, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's not the reason this isn't my favorite Alien movie, right? That's not enough for me to dislike this movie, but I just, the choice doesn't sit well with me.
It was definitely a middle finger
personally.
to fans for sure.
Yeah.
I like it and I don't like
it's,
it.
You know, and then like, right. I guess I'm the same way because it does raise the stakes. It does show you that nobody is safe. It does exactly what he set out to do, right? And it kind of prepares you for what's going to happen at the end of the movie with Ripley as well, where it's just like there's only like death is the only way out kind of thing, you know.
Unless you're
you can't really escape this monster. Unless you're Morse.
Like me, my thing is that like for a long time I was of the opinion that I was ultimately fine with Hicks and Newt dying at the beginning because like I was of the mindset of like, you know, they're trying to tell this specific story. Those characters they don't think will work in this setting. They have specific important narrative reasons for them to not be around. It's fine. I was like, you know, whatever, I'll just accept it. This is the story they're trying to tell. Now that I'm going back and watching the movie again, I will admit that it is kind of bullshit that those characters went through everything just to immediately get killed off screen without even being aware at the time that they're dying, you know?
Yeah. That's more what it is. It's the fact that they weren't even aware, like killing them in their sleep. It's just, that's what makes it feel a little disrespectful.
But like on the other hand, though, like we were saying earlier, like the entire tone of this movie is just very cold and unfeeling and uncaring. And it's like, what are you going to do in that situation? You're going to kill the people the protagonist cares about. Because that's what you do in a story with a tone like this.
And a dog.
So it's one of those things where I kind of waffle.
And a fucking dog.
And a dog, exactly. Like I kind of waffle back and forth. I don't know if I, you know, ultimately am okay with it or ultimately think it's kind of bullshit. Like I can't decide because it's like they both have good reasons for me to think it's either okay or shitty that they did it. Like I could kind of go either way and there's evidence in my brain to support either decision. So I don't really know how I feel, but I will say that on this watch, it did bother me more that they died than it did all of the previous times I had seen this movie. So
it does go to show this movie does hit all the buttons. Cause I don't like some people, you know, don't kill the doggo. There's even like a site that warns you if a dog dies in the movie. I forget what the site's called. I never like seeing kids get killed in movies, even when I was a kid. The Blob remake comes to mind. The Maximum Overdrive.
I love that movie so
much. Love that movie to death, but that scene does take me out of the movie a little bit when the kid very gruesomely gets melty faced.
He sure does.
Not to mention the scene in the movie Kenny will never watch again. I'm trying not to say its name.
That's traumatizing, huh?
We're talking about Jaws.
It's okay. Jaws. Do kids die in Jaws?
It sure is.
Yeah, I guess.
Say that again.
Do kids kind of die in Jaws? Yeah, I guess one kid does get
the Kittner boy in the first one. Yeah, it's that's the death.
Yeah,
like that's
been a while.
The dolly zoom, the blood gush, everything. It was a child.
The Blob one was the worst one for me, and then Maximum Overdrive, where you're supposed to laugh at little leaguers getting flattened by a steamroller, but still was a little bit much for me. Yeah,
I mean that's just good old fashioned
comedy gold, right?
But yeah. The reason you're supposed to laugh at it is because that movie is explicitly a comedy horror movie. Right. That's the reason why.
I mean, I get it,
right?
But still,
it still makes
all those little boys got a mother somewhere. But this movie, they kill the kid, they kill the dog, and they kill, also the kid and Hicks, both previous characters. They do all the sins. However, the killing of the kid doesn't bother me here. It serves the story and also, more importantly, happens off screen. So it doesn't bother me in that way, but it's still, it is very cruel and unfeeling, like this whole movie is.
My final thoughts are, it serves the story. so just on this subject, not on the whole movie, let's be clear, but like, yeah, the death of Newt and Hicks serves the story, but also, what if this wasn't a movie with Ripley in it, and this was just an alien gets loose in this facility with these people, and they have to figure out how to kill it with no prior experience? That also feels like a much more interesting story to me. I'm almost of the thought of like, this didn't need, like, this could have been a wholly original. This didn't need to be a Ripley story necessarily. This could have just been a wholly original alien movie, much like it seems they're going to be doing now.
Yeah, that could have worked.
That didn't have to be tied to previously existing characters.
I mean,
I think there's still something fascinating about that.
Now that you bring it up, that's a good point. There isn't really anything in this movie that happens because it is specifically informed by Ripley's characterization, like there was in the previous two. You know, that is a good point.
And it just like in retconning this egg onto the Sulaco so that it can get there also. Like, it's just a lot of extra steps, it feels like, to get Ripley involved in this situation.
Yeah.
Where they could have just come up with any other reason why a xenomorph might pop up on this facility, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
But that's, you know, that's not the movie that they made. That's not the movie that we got. Like, this is a movie that, for better or worse, is putting Ripley's story to bed until they decide, just kidding.
Yeah.
So, like,
but that's not this movie's fault, so we can't hold that against it.
I'm with you.
Right.
A little bit
Yeah.
both. Like, this totally could have worked as a Ripley-less alien movie, but it's part 3. She still her story definitely needed to be concluded. Let's pretend that thing with resurrection never happened.
But I feel like her story could have been concluded at the end of Aliens is the other
If she,
thing.
Had a happy ending and they actually did make it back to Earth, and
Yeah.
she got to start a life of Newt and Hicks.
Right. Or just with Newt.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe, I mean,
yeah, maybe Hicks didn't work out.
Yeah,
Just friends,
anyway.
But she takes Newt home to her little cramped apartment building, and she's her new daughter, and Ripley's her new mother. Yeah,
right.
And they got Jonesy. Oh man, I would love to see
You little shit.
I'd love to see a little comfy TV series about that with Jonesy. And,
I'm gonna drop a correction in here. 2 hours and 10 minutes probably after it happened. Red Shoe Diaries was a Showtime series. It was never on USA Up All Night.
Okay, that's why I didn't
SMDH.
recognize it. little too. Not that I didn't have Showtime around that age as well.
I don't see. I didn't, so I don't understand how I ever knew about it as a kid. It doesn't matter.
Neal, baby, I got
Bonus
bad
episode.
news for you. You're fired.
Fuck. Podcast over.
It's my show now, baby.
Here are the facts.
All right. Well, what do we want to do now, Kenny?
Oh, we're gonna keep going and doing the show like normal. Don't worry.
Okay. Cool. What did you think in terms of monsters? We got the Weyland-Yutani Rescue Party showing up. We kind of talked about Bishop 2 in this context already. I'm trying to find the name of those suits. Those suits that the troopers are wearing.
Yeah, I think they're called like Weyland-Yutani Commandos or something like that. I don't remember exactly what their name is, but I guess they're like a class of soldier, I suppose.
They are, but I'm trying to think of what the actual suit, the armor is called, because, the ape suit. That's the term. They call them ape suits.
All right.
Because you can get those in Fireteam Elite, and for a long time, my Demolisher was in a full-ass ape suit. My Demolisher? Yeah, my Demolisher. I like those. I like the ape suits. They look dated. Like, even in 1992, they looked dated, right? But I just like the look of those.
I can't picture him for some reason.
I got a picture incoming.
Okay.
I seem to vaguely recall that they looked sort of like snow troopers. Yeah.
Yeah. Snow troopers is what I would have thought of, because I thought of it less as armor and more as like spacesuit, to protect from a contagion. But looking at that now, they are very kind of goofy looking face, isn't it?
You also fight guys in Weyland-Yutani ape suits in the Alien trilogy video game, which is what I mostly recognized them from. But now, like, because again, I haven't watched this movie a whole ton, but I was like, oh, that's why they're in that game, because they were in this. So I feel like I always thought that having those in Fireteam was a reference to Trilogy. It's more specifically a reference to this.
Oh.
Yeah, just a little bit about me.
Those faces definitely are kind of combination dorky and threatening at the same time. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They're pretty cool. I dig them. Finally, we've got some monsters among the convicts in this prison. I don't remember the specific character's name, but boy, that rape scene was
potential
rough.
rape scene. Thank God.
Yeah, you are correct. That attempted rape scene, pardon me, was rough to see, and it was just a weird. I hated seeing Ripley in that position. I don't know why. Like, I mean, I know why, obviously, but like it hit me differently. Like it felt wrong to have that in this movie.
It's not what I come to an alien. Well, I suppose in a sense, seeing someone get raped technically is something you come to an alien movie to see, but it's never human. It's never human on human, which that's the key difference, you know?
It's xenomorph on other living creature.
Correct, yes.
Right. So this just felt like you don't have to do it, but I understand that they're like, well, it's an all-male prison. Woman shows up.
Here's the thing.
In the context of the movie,
this is a chance for us to get
sense. Awkward as it is.
It does. Like, it absolutely does make sense. The reason why, like, ultimately I have actually very little to say about this scene because I think it's extremely stupid. And the main reason I don't really have much to say about it is because I guess the best way to put it is I expected better of this movie. Like, they introduce the lone female character into an entire planet filled with rapists and child molesters. And despite that, the pedigree of the series and the franchise up to this point, I expected them to not take the obvious, like, first thing you think of.
Right.
I expected them to do better than the first thing you would think of in that situation.
Yeah.
And then they did it anyway, and I'm like, come on.
And it doesn't really have any lasting effects, right?
It doesn't do anything. It doesn't narratively matter at all.
It doesn't move Ripley's story forward. It only kind of moves Charles Dutton's character's story forward because we see him come to her rescue.
Yeah, it's the first time that you see him like treat her as something other than an antagonist. You know,
right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't one of the guys in that pack scrolling back up, Peter? Whatever his last name is, Pete Bosch.
I truly have no idea which one of the dudes it even was.
He's bald and he wore goggles.
I'm not sure either. Right. I don't think it was him.
I mean, because it could serve the story.
In that scene, I could be wrong.
If, as they all have to suck it up and team up at the end of this guy and Ripley coming to terms of, what almost happened, her coming to terms of having to trust this guy and this guy having to come to terms of the horrible shit he almost did, not counting whatever he did to get into prison in the first place. It has
but the movie doesn't hit on any of those things.
That's how I felt it does. Cause I thought Pete was in there, but maybe he wasn't. And better movie would have addressed that later to give a reason for that scene to begin in the first place. And without that, I guess Kenny's right. It's just the first thing you think of, and probably a better movie wouldn't have done that.
That's why I was curious if it was Robert Morse, if it was Morse, the guy who survives at the end, because then it would have kind of been circular, right? He would have gone from being her attacker to being her ally.
I just looked it up, and the Wikipedia page just says she's cornered by 4 inmates and almost raped, then gets saved by Dylan. The Xenopedia page says she recovers and reactivates the remains of Bishop. It literally doesn't even mention that happened in the Xenopedia plot synopsis. So I truly have no idea which characters were involved in it.
Right. Yeah.
Once again,
we'll never know unless we
watch the movie.
Watch it again. But what are you gonna do? Yeah, it was just a scene that you don't gain anything by having it in the movie. It could have very easily been lifted out.
Yeah.
It could have cut sooner. It could have been like they're showing up and cornering.
They didn't have to specifically have him kick her legs apart. Cut
off her belt with a knife.
With very explicit purpose.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
Thumbs
good.
down.
I did not. I like it's one of those things where it's like, of course, because I am a sane and rational person, I never want to watch a movie and see that happen to someone, but there are situations, very specific situations that movie X goes out of its way to set up where it is narratively warranted for us to be aware that that happens to a character.
Right.
This is not one of those movies.
No.
This absolutely did not need to happen at all for any reason at all.
It feels extremely 1992.
I think that's what it.
Right.
I think that's
Like,
the crux of it right there. It's 92.
Yeah.
They would not do this if it were made today, for sure. But once again, it makes sense that it happens because, a planet full of rapists and child molesters and murderers, of course. But I don't know if it shouldn't have been there or not. Fuck, man. I don't want to say I'm okay with the scene being there because that sounds wrong, but
it
makes sense.
We understand. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse. Let's say
I get it. It certainly could have been worse.
It could have been
gratuitous.
To say David Fincher's name, it could have been Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which has an infinitely worse scene, but that scene did need to be there. That's funny how that works out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Turns out I did not scroll quite far enough on the Alien³ Wikipedia page. It does list a couple of the characters that were in that scene. Two of them were Junior and Gregor. It doesn't say anything about who Gregor is, but Junior is the guy that has the teardrop tattoo under one of his eyes.
Okay.
Holt McCallany, who is in a lot of David Fincher movies, I believe.
Interesting.
Holt McCallany as Junior.
And then Peter Guinness is Gregor. And the Alien³ Wikipedia page does not list who the other two characters are, but it does say there were 4 of them. I don't know who the other 2 were, but like I said, the scene is pointless and stupid anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it really.
I feel like I didn't do enough due diligence considering there's a character in this played by Deboya Opare named Arthur Walkingstick.
Mm-hmm. And I have no idea which character that even is.
Maybe he was cut from the film.
I think he's the other black inmate. He's the one that isn't Charles Dutton.
He's the one that has, the other black inmate was the one that had the cross tattoo on the forehead that I thought was a bold stylistic choice. I don't know if that's him, but if it is, that's the character I referenced earlier.
Gotcha. And Holt McCallany was in Fight Club. I think he's been in most Fincher movies. Doesn't matter. He's in Jack Reacher, Never Go Back. Let's move on. Because that movie taught us one thing: is that you can never go back.
That's correct.
So, anything else you guys want to say overall about this film before we talk about the ending? And by the ending, I mean the very end ending.
Very ending, which I do have some thoughts on.
Do we want to wait to review it until afterwards, or do we want to do that now?
Let's review it afterwards. Right. But I just didn't know if there's any scenes you want to give shout outs to or anything like that before we get to the ending.
I think I did have one thing.
Sure.
Well, I have 1.5 things because I had one thing that I wanted to mention, and then another thing that just is another one of those very brief stray notes where I'm like, I liked this anyway. Going back to how I mentioned that I think this movie has really good dialogue. And again, it's a Dylan line. When Ripley and Dylan are setting up the plan to lead the runner through into the big piston and drop of lead on it. They're talking and Ripley goes, "What if someone screws it up?" And then Dylan just looks at her and goes, "Then we're fucked."
Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit about the plan before we get to the end, because that was a pretty good set piece. Honestly, I really enjoyed.
I agree
that I like the way they had to figure out we don't have any fucking weapons at all. We've got some axes and some knives from the kitchen and stuff like that. That's all we got.
Airlocks this time.
How do we? There's no airlocks. We can't. We can't blow it out of the airlock and be safe. I like the premise of how do we fucking deal with this thing, and just like what resources do we have.
I know I'm thinking of something too that you're probably going to say. I'll see if you say it though.
Yeah, I'll probably pass to you in just a second here, but it is funny to see like these guys standing by all of these doors, holding like butcher knives, cleavers and stuff like that. Like that is not going to serve you well against the Xenomorph. They do bleed acid. Like I guess it's better than nothing, but
well, this is a selfless battle.
You're really not protected.
It's a battle to the death. They know they're going to die, right? That was the whole spiel of the speech,
right?
So
yeah, it's a cool scene, and I don't know, I like it. I do like it. Like it's tense and everything, and it's interesting to see like the Xenomorph vision in this. Essentially, like I didn't really read it as like seeing the monster. Like I didn't used to. I do now, but like I didn't know it was so much specifically the alien's point of view versus just a stylistic choice, a la something like Evil Dead, where we don't really see the force, we just see the direction it's going. You know, I don't know. Very cool scene. And then like when shit does go bad, just seeing like Ripley and Dylan like snap into it, and she's just like, shit, how much time? And she just like goes off, and they go off with like plan B of trying to make this thing happen. You know, just watching them work together and everything. Good moment in this movie.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I thought it was a genuinely good twist how like Aaron or whatever his name is like poking away on the computer in the warden's office, and he like gets the memo that like due to the neuroscan that she performed earlier, like that data was sent to Weyland-Yutani, and so now like they're on overdrive to get there
like, no,
as quick as I
we're
can.
Actually coming,
and
we're
like,
actually coming now.
I thought that was a genuinely good twist, that like that's how they find out that she has the facehugger, because like Bishop even foreshadowed it earlier when he said that like they knew everything that happened on the ship, but like in the moment of that scene when he's telling her that, it reads like that the movie has him say that line to explain away that part. But then later on, they bring that back to use that again as the explanation for this. And I was like, oh, that is a clever callback to like, I wouldn't have thought of that. That's a clever callback to something that had happened earlier on in the movie. You know, I did think that was a very like efficient way to write themselves out of that corner, you know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I like that a lot. I didn't really pick up on that.
Wait, I'm confused. So you mean that when Bishop says that Weyland-Yutani knew everything that happened on the ship, that explains why they came so fast?
That explains why near the end of the movie they get the message that it's like, oh, that Weyland-Yutani ship will be there in 2 hours, because now we have all this data about how she's like has the Xenomorph and everything. And it's like that reasoning that Bishop gave earlier, it reads in the moment like he's saying, oh, like, you know, they already know what happened on 426 and what happened to me, and they already know that you're crashed here.
So basically,
but then they bring that explanation back. But then they bring that explanation back at the end to be like, oh, also that thing we said earlier, that also means that they know she's like impregnated. And I went, clever.
Right. So like up to the point where like Bishop says they knew everything. They didn't know she was impregnated at that time because there was no record of it. As soon as she does that scan,
then they find out.
They know the scan has happened and she's got. So they're like, well, yeah, all right, we'll actually get there now. Like we're coming. Yeah, we've been taking our time, but we're gonna step on it now. We'll see you in a couple hours.
We actually care about getting there now. Yeah.
Right. Yes, we want that. We want the beast. We want the specimens.
Typical stuck-up company behavior.
Josh, did you have something else?
Oh yeah, I mean, did you guys? Well, no, Kenny was speaking last. I guess that was a conclusion to his point. Did you say everything you needed to say about closing thoughts on the movie? Kenny or Neal?
The one last thing that I had is, again, another classic Dylan line. Right before he sacrifices himself in like the lead mold,
Sure.
Ripley's like, no, you go ahead. I'm going to hold off this xenomorph.
Right. I want to die.
And he gets extremely mad at her, not because she wants to die. He doesn't care if she dies. His problem with it is that specifically, you promised me I could kill you. You have no right to deny me of that.
I don't think it was that so much as he was like, that thing dies, then you die.
Don't get
specifically.
jump on the gun.
Maybe he wants to kill her, but he also like, I think he's also thinking like, you're our best chance of beating this thing because you've encountered these things before. So like, once that thing is dead and we're done and we've done our work, I'll make it painless.
That tracks because I think Dylan already knows he's not making it. He's made a decision, so he's not getting to kill Ripley. Right. I don't think he really wanted to, even though he is by his own admission, a killer and rapist of women.
That's correct.
I don't think that was on his to-do list there. I think Neal's right. He's like, your responsibility, this thing dies, then you get to die. Hey, I'm sorry it didn't work out. I got to die first.
Because he knows at that point too, like the reason the xenomorph started following them into the mold. Is that should I be calling it the mold?
Yeah,
I mean
that's
what I interpreted it as.
Yeah. Dylan even calls it the mold.
It's not.
We'll lure the goddamn beast into the mold.
Okay, we see Ripley like trying to grab it by its tail and like pull it out and shit, which is kind of wild.
Yeah,
and it won't go. But then as soon as Dylan shows up and like grabs her to take her away, it starts following. So like he has put together, it's because I'm being hostile, or it interprets me as being hostile towards you. So it's coming for me.
Yeah.
So I gotta be the one who like holds it in here.
Yeah.
It can't be you. Like I think he also knows
I would have liked them to.
He might be hoping a little bit that that's not the case, but
I would have liked to see them do
is.
more with Ripley not being harmed by the xenomorph. Like it would have been cool to see her, this would change the ending, somehow like, hold it. But yeah, obviously Dylan is more of its target. I didn't interpret it as like it thinks he's threatening her. I interpreted it as, he's prey. More prey for me. But that could be the explanation. But it would have been cool if like Ripley could have been like, come here, baby. And maybe it would have come up to him and,
Right. Well, don't worry. There's plenty of that.
Oh, yeah.
Alien.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was really
exactly what you wished for.
That was really all I had. So if everyone else is okay, let's talk about the ending of this movie, baby.
I had one thing I want to mention. I hate to prolong this thing, but I didn't think of it until you started talking about Kenny, the trap and the final scene. My only parting thought is the way the alien finally gets it. Like the lead doesn't do it. He bursts out of the lead, hot, steaming mad. And that's when, the final prisoner says, as we said before, douse the fucker. What an interesting way for him to go. Temperature shock, which they did foreshadow in the fire midway through the movie when you see the metal bucket get warped.
Yep.
And
right.
It just surprised me, though, because like here, maybe I'm picking it apart a little bit, but would that be the thing that comes to your mind in that situation? It's like he fucking survived hot lead. And the first thing I'm going to think of is, like when, people put hot water on their frozen windshield and it bursts. Let's douse them with water.
Well,
I mean,
maybe
I wouldn't have thought of that, but I also don't work at a refinery either.
True. Well, they don't either. They're prisoners.
Good point. You've got me there.
But I think they did work
you're right.
as prisoners,
Yeah, they did say at one point that like Ripley asked Dylan, like, when was the last time you fired this up? And he's like, 5 or 6 years ago. So like they do use it occasionally.
Okay.
So presumably they know how to operate.
Maybe that would be the forefront of their mind then. If that's something, if they work with extreme temperatures, they'd be more conscious of that. Because some people just flat out don't know about temperature shock.
That being said,
but this
though,
guy's clearly like a tradesman, right? Like he's got specialized knowledge.
On the other hand, though, if weird monstrous alien didn't die from getting doused in tons of molten lead, even if I did know thermal shock was a thing, it might not have occurred to me at the time.
Yeah, like in the panic of the situation, I would have been shitting my pants while climbing the ladder.
Right.
And being, my mind would just be like over and over, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. I don't think I would think on my feet that fast.
We would all be lucky to survive
absolutely.
into an alien encounter. Likely we each would have fallen into different giant fans.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yes. I will say, though, it was extremely satisfying to watch a xenomorph fucking explode.
Yeah. Oh, it always is.
And that's why I don't really have a problem with it. Because getting buried in the lead is kind of like, eh.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the other times, they're like, oh, we're going to shoot it out of an airlock or burn it or whatever. But this guy fucking blew up. That kicked ass.
And he didn't splash any acid on anybody either.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and I was like, whew, what are the chances? How lucky are they?
Let's talk about Ripley's ending specifically, because we've been through the events, right? We've been through everything. They trap the beast in the mold. They dump the lead on it as it is eating Dylan, etc.
Poor Dylan, by the way. I don't think I could do that. Imagine how much that fucking hurt.
R.I.P. that guy.
And he was surviving a long time getting eaten by
screaming.
that xenomorph too. But I feel like the weight of that would just crush you, right? The weight of that.
Oh
would
yeah,
probably
I
crush
say
you
poor
before you
Dylan
even
because
felt
of getting
it.
mauled by the alien. I think once the lead hits, it's hopefully instant death.
It's over.
Yeah, presumably he died instantly, which is good, I guess.
Yeah.
The xenomorph is gone, but the xenomorph inside her is ready to start coming out, just as Weyland-Yutani has arrived with Bishop 2 and Ape Suit Troopers, etc. She ain't having it, though, is she? Right? So she, after listening to their deal, as she's listening to their deal, she's been like maneuvering her way over so that she can get to the platform and have Morse like move her into position over the thrusters. And just that moment when Bishop 2 is like trying to get her to come with him, she just says no.
Yep.
God damn it.
Yeah, you need to trust me. And she just goes, no, and walks out off the thing. Yeah.
It's so fucking good. This is the moment that I remember from this movie. I think everybody remembers this moment from the movie as she just sort of falls off the platform into the incinerator. As the burster like starts breaking through her chest and she like grabs it with her hands to carry it into the fire to make sure it doesn't get away. Something that was a reshoot apparently in the original version and maybe in the assembly cut too. She just falls in without the thing bursting out.
Assembly cut, she just same thing except no chest burster. She just falls in. I've heard people say that the chest burster idea was stupid in concept because if it was that close. Then there was nothing Bishop could have done to, they would have been on their way to the ship and it would have come out.
I've heard that too.
I also remembered the theatrical version a lot cooler when I was a kid because, as I said, about 8 years ago, I rewatched and saw the assembly cut. First time I've seen that version, but also the first time I see Alien³ since I was a kid. And I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't burst in the scene. So when I watched this last month, that was the first time I'd seen the ending since I was a kid too. And boy, my childhood imagination had this epic slow-mo shot of her falling with a chest burster wriggling in her hands. But in the actual movie, it's actually edited a little, once again, obviously edited in. It just kind of pops out and it's not as cool as I remember.
It just kind of pops out and then she grabs it and just holds it against her chest and then just falls into the incinerator.
Yeah. Awesome score, though, for that scene. It did kind of make me swell up a little bit.
It is. Elliot Goldenthal did the score for this movie, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We did forget to mention, I guess. But perfect way to mention it here because that ending theme, I'm sad and
powerful. It is powerful.
It's sad and triumphant at the same time because, yes, we beat the alien. Hopefully they won't recover her DNA in 50 years and clone her and start the whole mess over again. But let's pretend that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that would be fucking insane. Why would they ever
do that?
How would they even get the DNA?
That was a big question too. I think the actual answer was her blood might have been somewhere on the Fury hallways somewhere or something.
Likely,
yeah.
Probably back in that med lab.
Yeah.
As a send-off to the Ripley character, I mean, she's taken the last xenomorph that they know about with her, right? She's destroyed the hive on LV-426. At this point, the only hive that we know about that in the universe, right?
Turns out it's not. It's extremely not the only one.
Turns out it's extremely not. As soon as you open shit up to like expanded universe and movies and or books and stuff that want to be in continuity,
everything has a hive, baby. There's one on every planet, apparently.
Yeah. It does take away a little bit from this journey, but in the context of these 3 movies, right? She's exterminated all of the known xenomorphs at this point. She's taken the last one with her to her grave, and she's finally like having some peace, right? She's dead. She's finished.
She sure is.
She's finished with her job.
Yep.
Then you think about it more and you realize like, okay, so from Alien to 57 years later on Acheron to a month or 2 later here on Fury, she hasn't set foot on Earth once.
No,
correct.
She's hovered above it a little bit.
When she got rescued, she was just on Gateway Station. So she's gone all of this time without setting foot on Earth. And also, timeline-wise, all of these things have happened in pretty rapid succession for her. You know, once she's awakened from cryosleep in Aliens, it's 57 years later, but not for her, obviously, because she's been asleep. And then it's, a matter of weeks or months before she's on LV-426 again, and then just a matter of weeks until she's here. So this has just been one long constant struggle for
There's
her.
a line earlier in the movie that this makes me think of, and I did want to mention. It's the pipe scene where she busts open the pipe, where she says, I feel like I've known you so long that something to the effect of, I've known you so long that it feels like this is all my life has been.
Yes.
I kind of didn't like that line.
She says like, I don't remember anything before you or something.
It feels more like
that.
Sigourney Weaver speaking than Ripley. Because Ripley, really, when you think about it, the events of Alien 1 happened, which were like a day or two. She wakes up. Right. She works a standard job for what seems like maybe a month and then goes to LV 422. And then that happens. And that's the course of a day or two. 426. I'm sorry. Thank you.
We don't want to get tweets.
God, thank you. Yeah, you could even edit that out if you want to. And then she falls asleep again and wakes up and hears Alien 3. So really, it's only like you said, very rapid succession.
I think more what she was saying in that line is like it's just taken over and consumed everything else.
It really has.
Like, she's just like, I gotta keep. It's like another one. Are you fucking kidding me? On this desert planet or this prison planet, still a xenomorph.
If Resurrection was a better movie, which actually I kind of halfway like Resurrection, I'll be honest, it's a fun movie, but that's what they should have played into. Like maybe clone Ripley number 8 wakes up and goes, God damn it, again, like something like that. But
serious with this shit.
But instead she's part alien.
Well, she does have that great line where I think it's Ron Perlman's like, so you've encountered these things before, huh? What did you do? And she says, I died.
Yeah.
It's it's accurate for starters, but it's also, she's like, I don't, what the fuck do you mean? I died. Like, I died trying to wipe them out. That's what I did. Like,
that's what I do.
And it seemed to be successful, but even in the grand scheme of things of like, obviously plenty of other alien media after this movie, outside of Resurrection, Resurrection included, she didn't wipe them out, but she
damn near succeeded.
She wiped out every single one she could find, and then she died trying to keep it out of the hands of Weyland Yutani.
If only she had thought of a scheme to blow up the prison, then it probably would have been a seal-proof plan.
It's the only way to be sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But her death is the opposite of Newton Hicks's death, right? Where this feels like it serves the character. Mm-hmm. She has agency in it. She's chosen it. She wants it to happen. And it does sort of close the book on her story. She's gotten so lucky to not have gotten one of these things inside her up until this point with all of the encounters she's had with them.
For sure.
And it's like a bummer that it's the thing that finally is going to take her out. But even then she's like, nope, going out on my own terms.
And it definitely is an emotionally satisfying ending. Or just emotional, period. A different type of emotion than Newton Hicks, because you definitely feel something with that. But this one, it feels earned. I don't know what the word is, but it's a great moment.
It does feel
it's a great
earned.
closure for Ripley.
I've gone on record before that I hate it when a movie or a game or a show or whatever wraps up the main character's storyline by killing them. As a general
Right.
rule, I pretty much always hate that, but there are a handful of exceptions, and this is one of them. I do think that
Yes.
this is a well done, appropriate, thematically resonant,
Yeah.
and narratively relevant end to this movie. I think this is the best way
Yes.
this movie could have ended, and if it did not end with her sacrificing herself to kill the final Xenomorph, the movie would not have worked as well.
Agreed. Yes.
I think the specific circumstances under which she was put in the situation where she had to are not what I would have liked to see necessarily, but again, this is the movie they made, and I do think this was the right choice for them to do.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Also, Sigourney Weaver probably wasn't going to want to come back anyway. I mean, she did, but I think she's about done.
She was ready to move on from this franchise. This
Yeah.
franchise kind of defined her career for a long time.
I don't think she wanted to do Alien 3.
Yeah, but I think she has enough reverence for the character to be like, okay, well, if we're gonna do it, let's end her story. Kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis, maybe with Halloween H2O. Like, sure, I'll come back, but I want my character to have a definitive ending to their story, even if you don't end up sticking to it.
And then she came back like 2 or 3 more times.
Right, but she came back to do it again.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like, no, let's
To-
really
yeah,
end
to
it this
do
time.
that
It's like,
again.
no,
yeah.
let's really
Let's do it for
really
real.
end it.
I may be remembering this incorrectly, but I seem to recall reading somewhere that she was not initially going to do it, which is why the first couple of drafts of the script for this movie were
Right.
about Bishop and Hicks rather than
The
Ripley.
Gibson drafts.
But
yeah.
then she signed on under and she had like 3 requests that they had to honor before she signed on.
Right.
She had to be given a producer credit. Ripley had to die at the end of the movie, and there was not allowed to be guns. They had to write a movie where they kill a xenomorph without guns. Those were her 3
sounds
requirements
like
in order
Sigourney
to
Weaver.
sign on to the movie.
I recall her
So-
saying she was very she's very, I don't want to say anti-gun, but she's not a gun person to the point where she commented when she got to handle the pulse rifle at the end of Aliens. She said it was a scary feeling because it was kind of a powerful feeling, and she didn't like it.
Yeah, she really doesn't do many projects with
Yeah.
guns in them. That might be the only
Probably
one.
is, yeah.
I mean, I don't have her entire film career memorized, but it's the only movie I can think of off the top of my head.
I don't think she holds a gun in Heartbreakers.
Don't even know that one.
That's a good movie. You guys should watch Heartbreakers.
I don't think she did when she was in the Defenders either. I don't think she used a gun.
No, and was she also in Daredevil?
She might have been in season 3. I didn't watch the entirety of season 3, so I don't remember, but I definitely know she was in Defenders, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't have a gun there.
I do also
Probably not a lot of weapons handling and gorillas in the mist.
gorillas in the, well, you know, she might run into those gray
Yeah.
gorillas from the Congo. She might need a weapon there.
Yeah, she didn't.
Sure.
She didn't have a gun in Dave. I remember that much.
Not Ghostbusters. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem
I
like
do recall her saying
she's much of
too that after Aliens, she was so in love with the way that James Cameron wrote her character that she said no one other than James Cameron should be able to touch Ripley with the pen. Obviously,
well,
she wasn't like 100% serious of that because she, you know, agreed to come on to 3, but that might have been part of her
Yeah.
hesitation at the beginning too, maybe because like I guess he just did it so well that anyone else would probably fuck it up, which I don't think they did. I think they wrote her fine in this movie.
I do, and I think I think David Fincher probably trusted her to know her character,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Because as I was saying, this character does still feel very Ellen Ripley,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, and then like, okay, let's just get right to it. You know, the facility. We get the montage after she's died of the facility shutting down, and then we hear the last survivor of the Nostromo flight recording like
Yeah.
playing
Mhm.
as the movie ends. What a nice bookend for the
Doesn't make
character.
much sense.
It was clearly intended to be the final movie in the series. I can tell you
Yeah.
that much.
They're like, we did it.
Yeah.
We're done. Let's
We
let the
tied
comic
up that
books
trilogy,
move on."
baby.
It doesn't make sense in a way though. Like I'm totally fine of it. It is the perfect emotional last shot. But why is a recording of that on the whatever ship, the drop ship that she came in on?
Who cares? That was for the audience.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think
Yeah,
I don't think that was eidetic. I think that was
I
for
see.
us.
Yeah, I
you know what I
gotcha.
mean?
And it works too.
So what you're saying is that when it cut in on the dropship she came in on, and like it was not the recording was playing out of the dropship, we just saw the dropship and then we heard that again from the first movie. I gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll buy
that's
that.
fair. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And boy, if it only ended there, that is a perfect last shot to a franchise for sure. Iconic.
Yeah, but
It
it
did.
didn't. So
But it is the last. Oh wait, no, it isn't. I was about to say it is the last appearance of Ripley, but oh wait, no, it isn't.
no, it isn't. And then there's even other ones in
boy.
expanded universe
Oh yeah,
stuff.
there's a few different things.
So I'm going to start with our guest, Josh. Josh, how do you feel about this movie?
Overall, I actually kind of like it. Totally get why it's not well received. I think some of it, you said you Neal yourself said it's not like you hated the movie because Newton Hicks died, but I know there are lots of people that probably did hate the movie solely because of that. Might have even walked out of the theater or taken the VHS tape out of the VCR.
Probably.
I got issues of it, but like at the same time, I kind of okay with it. And the movie as a whole, yeah, not bad. There definitely is some head scratchers as far as, as we discussed how the whole beginning panned out, what happens in between here and there. There are obviously cuts, but as far as an entertaining movie, I think I initially thought of it as a kid too, that, it's just a retread of Alien 1 because they're back to one alien and a group of unarmed people, but really it's not. It feels a lot different than Alien 1. It's less that space horror and, like I said, more of just, you could put a tiger in there and it'd still feel like the same movie. It's just a vicious beast. Okay, maybe not quite the same. The tigers don't impregnate themselves in doggies and burst out. But
well, not as far as we know, anyway.
As far as we know, you've never seen a tiger not do it.
Sure.
No. Very.
I've never seen a tiger not do it.
I don't know what I'm saying there. Good movie. I like it. Obviously, it's no aliens. It's no alien. So it is technically the least best of the franchise at that point, but still solid, entertaining movie. I wouldn't mind watching it again.
Kenny, what about you? How do you feel about Alien 3 theatrical cut?
Bro, I fucking loved this movie.
Nice.
I enjoyed it so much. I had a great time. Like this entire episode so far, I've been trying to, balance the stuff that the stuff that I talk about that I liked and the stuff that I talked about that I didn't like, so that you didn't really have much of a vibe of where I was, but I fucking loved this movie, man. Like, Josh, I don't know if you remember our Aliens episode, but like I went on record on that episode that I'm not in love with that movie like a lot of other people
I do
are.
recall you saying, and I feel you on that too. I have thoughts about Aliens, but I generally like it.
I enjoyed watching this movie more than I enjoy watching Aliens. I understand that it is a technically inferior movie. Like, Aliens is a better made and like a better like structured movie. It makes more sense, but I had more fun watching this. Part of it is going back to what Josh just said. He's like, oh yeah, not a lot of people initially ripped on it because it was just the first one again. Yeah. That's why I fucking like it so much. I want every Alien story to just be Alien over and over and over again. Because as I said on our Aliens episode, my main complaint with it is that it's less of a horror movie and more of an action movie.
Right.
And so they went back in the opposite direction and we're doing a straight up fucking ass horror movie. And yeah, that's what I want. Give me that all day. I fucking love this movie. I thought it was great. I do not think it's as good as the other two, but I do like this movie is higher in my rankings of the franchise than Aliens is. It's of course not as good as the first one because nothing is as good as the first one.
Right. Yeah.
But I like this movie a lot. I had a great time. Like, a lot of the stuff that it does that I didn't think worked, I was able to brush it aside because there are other parts of it that I thought worked great. And just by the time the movie was over, I was like, damn, I had a fun fucking time watching this movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you were being sarcastic at first, like the first sentence.
Nope.
But damn, you really love this movie, and like I can't disagree. It's a good movie.
I love it. Like I said, if everything was just Alien over and over again, I would love everything. The fact that the primary thing that the expanded universe does is give us aliens again is like my biggest gripe about the franchise as a whole. I want more Alien and less aliens, but that's never what anyone does. But that's not a gripe for this episode, because this episode they did do Alien again. So
Kinda.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, because you do everything like Resurrection. Sure, it doesn't have an army of xenomorphs, but there's enough. There's like 6 or something like that. And there's a bunch of face huggers, and people have guns, right? Alien Covenant, the landing party has guns, right? Prometheus, there's even guns and flame units and stuff like that. So, like, I totally get what you're saying about like it is less scary when there's guns. It honestly is, because you've got something that you can fight against the xenomorph with when you have a firearm.
And even the one other major franchise entry where they tried to do Alien again, Isolation, that still turns into aliens at the end of the game.
Right.
Because there's a handful of them, and you do get
there's a whole bunch of them, and there's a big hive, and you have like a flamethrower now, and just come on,
I actually stopped the game.
Don't don't do that
right before you get the flamethrower. Maybe that needed to happen because video game has to have the big climax.
I mean, that's the thing. Because it's a video game, I'm willing to give it a little bit of a different leeway, but like, come on, man. That story did not need that, okay?
I will say, like, I'm glad we got Aliens instead of Alien Isolation as a sequel, because, like, if I get you, Alien 3 is Alien over again, except it's not.
Yeah, it's similar. It's the same sort of setup, isolated environment,
but
people
the
who aren't
mood's
prepared to deal with
different.
this threat, but it changes it enough.
The alienness, like I said, is gone. That's some key ingredient in Alien 1, I think. Not just the isolation and no weapons. It's just it's in the title. It's not just a noun. It's an adjective, alien. And the third one loses that. But I'm glad we got Aliens, because I don't think it would have succeeded as a franchise if the second movie was just the first one again. Like if it was a story of alien isolation put into a movie. I mean, it would have been a good movie, sure, but I don't think it would have been long living as a franchise.
It worked for Halloween.
I
Friday
guess.
the 13th.
I mean,
James.
I mean,
Bond
don't get me wrong.
Josh.
Don't get me wrong. I don't have any like animus or ill will towards Aliens. It's a perfectly fine movie. I think it's good for what it is. My big complaint that I've gone on record on before is it's simply that it's just not what I want out of a sequel to the first movie.
Yeah,
I just would have preferred them to stay on the path that the first one created, rather than diverting to this other more actiony path. But like, it's fine that they did it. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just glad that they did decide to go to try to go back to the well that the first one is from.
Yeah.
That's what I like so much about Alien 3 is, when I say they tried to do it again, I mean that they tried to do like a horror movie where a bunch of people fight one xenomorph.
And honestly,
like in an enclosed, like that's what I like.
This is probably the best thing they could have done, because I mean, where would you go from Aliens as far as a bigger and better story? And I know there's like script ideas of going to Earth and all that. I think
but there's some weird shit in those.
Dialing it back to
There
basics
sure
is a perfect thing to do for a part 3, I think. So
right.
Yeah.
But and you can't do the back to basics thing. So I understand what you're both saying. Like, this couldn't have been Alien 2 because you're not going back to basics, right? You needed something different in between them to make this happen, I think. As for my opinion on the movie, I've been sleeping on Alien 3. Like, I will admit that. Like, I have been. It's still, I have a complicated relationship with this movie still, because the hyper nerd part of my brain that wants to figure out the logistics of how the xenomorphs and the face huggers and all that shit actually worked, it can't get over those weird inconsistencies. But at the end of the day, all that does is come in conflict with expanded media stuff and movies that got made after this one. And if I look at this in the context of this is the third Alien movie, and if you're only comparing it with the first two, I can get over a lot of that stuff and just accept this movie for what it is, which is a pretty good back to basics Alien movie and a really good send off for the Ripley character, even if that's going to be undone in a few short years after this movie comes out. I like this movie. I would probably rank it third behind Alien and Aliens. I think it is better than Prometheus. I think it is better than Alien Covenant. I am sure it is better than Resurrection. It is certainly a better film, a more interesting film with way more interesting characters than most of those, and definitely the Alien versus Predator movies, which are just devoid of anybody that you give a fucking shit about. I'll just say that right now. I think that this movie does create memorable characters. I mean, we've talked quite a bit about Dylan, for instance. He's a great character, and it does it in a different way than James Cameron did with Aliens, right? Like, these aren't characters that you dig because they're fun and funny and charismatic and tough and vulnerable. Like, these are characters that are interesting because they're dangerous a little bit, right? Because they're unpredictable, because you don't know anything about them. And like, all you're seeing in this movie is like a whole bunch of people stuck on a rock, like combining their skills and everything just in an attempt to like stop this creature from spreading, in an attempt to help some number of them survive if possible. This is, out of all of these movies, this is the one that feels the most like it's a statement about humanity.
Yeah.
To me, in a way that it's not being cynical about it, which you would almost expect from a David Fincher movie, right?
Yeah.
But this is more of like, no, we have a job to do, all of us, right? And it doesn't matter where we've come from or what we believe in and all of that kind of stuff. It's time for us to like unite against this specific threat.
A great statement.
And save humanity.
That's a great statement. And I remember a friend specifically using the word nihilism to describe this movie, which a lot of people do. But really, when you get to the end, maybe the secret person behind the scenes is nihilistic by doing awful things to the characters, but the characters themselves,
right?
That's altruistic. We are going to, even if it means sacrificing ourselves, do something for the betterment of humanity. This creature cannot get in the hands of Weyland-Yutani. That's pretty awesome.
And that's Ripley's whole character, like throughout these three films, right? That's her.
Yeah.
You know, she wants to, she doesn't even care about surviving. She's going to survive if she can, but what's more important is that she stops this fucking thing. Right. She's going to survive if she can, but it's more important she try to save Newt from the hive before the explosion.
Yeah.
Right. She's going to try. She's going to try to save people. She's going to try to save herself. But at the end of the day, all that really matters is that she stops these fucking things. So in the context of this specific trilogy, I do think that this is a successful ending to it. And I liked this movie. And it's definitely going to get put in the rotation more often now. Nice. Like having watched it the way I watched it for this show.
Well, there you go. All three of us like the movie.
Hell yeah.
The most hated movie at the time it came out. But I got to wonder if anybody looking back now I wonder if it's one of those movies that is looked at favorably now by most people just because of everything that came after it.
I know that the assembly cut certainly raised people's opinions of it overall. And
that is true.
Yeah, I don't know if people's higher opinion on the assembly cut transferred over to the theatrical cut of the movie, but the movie is held in higher regard now because after the assembly cut came out, everyone was like, oh, now I get what they were actually trying to do here.
That's why I was interested in rewatching the theatrical cut not long ago, thinking like, oh, now I want to see how it holds up to my good memories of the assembly cut, but it still holds up. Like, I might even prefer the theatrical more in certain aspects.
I'd have to go back and watch the assembly cut again because there's a lot of it I don't really remember anymore. But like, you know, if this version is considered the inferior one and I liked it this much, who knows? I might actually prefer it over the assembly cut once I go back and watch it. Who knows? I'm not sure. I'll have to, it'll just give me an excuse to watch it again.
There'll be no squirming doggies, so you probably like it better already there.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
How long was this movie? It did feel long. I think
it's a good solid 2 hours.
It's like 2 hours.
Almost. I remember because, as I've gone on record on before, when I watch a movie, I frequently pause it to take notes. And because I ended up getting distracted and doing other stuff, it actually took me over 5 hours to watch this movie yesterday.
Jeez,
it's what I did the entire afternoon. And so as such, because of that, I had it on pause a lot, because it was one of those things where like I would pause it to take notes, or I would pause it to get up and go to the bathroom, or I would pause it and then have it paused for like 45 minutes while I went to go make something to eat, that kind of thing. And so I would come back to it occasionally over the course of the afternoon. As such, it was on pause a lot. The movie is 1 hour and 54 minutes long, but that includes the credits. So the movie actually ends at like 1 hour and like 47 minutes or so.
Wow.
So it's just shy of 2 hours long.
All right. Yeah. 115 minutes for the theatrical cut, 145 minutes for the assembly cut.
Wow.
That feels a little long to me. I had this realization recently. I might have said it on either this podcast or I might have said it on Combat Time, where I was watching Army of Darkness, a movie that I didn't think I loved, but I watched the theatrical cut and realized I do love it. And my problem was that the director's cut was just a little too long. You
did mention Army of Darkness watching it, but you didn't mention that realization because we got onto other stuff. I didn't know there was a director's cut of Army of Darkness.
There's several cuts of that.
I've only ever seen the theatrical version. And yeah, I thought it was the best movie on earth when I first saw it. So maybe you just needed that nice, quick, breezy experience.
Sometimes you need that. And that movie's particularly breezy. I think it's like 80 minutes or something. The theatrical cut, maybe 75. I'm not sure. It's not very long, but I'm getting to a point where I am starting to, like, there was that huge boom in the 2000s, around 2003 probably, when this was coming out, where the unrated, the extended editions, the director's cut editions were like all in vogue. Yeah. And a lot of stuff getting them didn't warrant it, but it also became the default version.
Like now you got your
things for a long time.
4 hour long version of King Kong and Lord of the Rings movies.
Like, yeah, if I had to guess, I would guess that Lord of the Rings was the movie that started that trend.
Probably.
I think so. A popcorn movie does not need to be 3 hours. Like Lord of the Rings isn't a popcorn movie, but Pirates of the Caribbean doesn't need to be 3 hours long, but some of them are. But I like 3 hour movie. I've seen a 4 hour movie, one of the best damn movies I've seen. Alien 3, boy, if the assembly cut is that long, I can't wait to go back and see how much. There is a whole big plot segment that's taken out, so that explains why this is so much shorter. Right. But it does feel longer. You're right. Yeah, it doesn't feel like an hour and 40-minute movie.
It's a half an hour longer than the theatrical cut.
But Alien 3, I don't think that's a detriment to this version that it feels longer, because I wasn't bored during it at all. But it does feel like a movie that ought to be long.
Like it does earn its 2 hour runtime. Like it didn't feel bloated to me, but I was wondering because I feel like the assembly cut might be a little too long for me, right? Like
could be, depends.
This is probably going to be likely going to be my go-to version of this movie that I'm going to watch because it's under 2 hours, right? Yeah. Like I think that's appealing to me as a busy adult, you know. But
I get you.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that I liked this. Like I was surprised that I liked Covenant when I watched it for the show.
I am too.
But all right, settle down.
What?
Taking a shot at me for liking Covenant.
I'm sorry, it wasn't really a shot. But I am surprised.
But yeah, I am a bit surprised that it's like I forget that I like the movie or something, and I don't watch it for a long time. Anyway. Do you feel like we did it? You guys feel like we talked about Alien 3?
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
I will say one final thing. Looking at the poster here.
It's only been 3.5 hours.
Kidding. Since I Googled the movie. It has some awesome art design for promotional art design.
Nice. I do like the iconic Xenomorph up against Ripley's face.
I'm looking at the poster with a curled up Queen chestburster. Very iconic logo.
Yes. That's the logo on the Super Nintendo label also.
Yes, it is.
I'll go back to how I mentioned earlier. I quoted my Letterboxd review earlier. I'll just follow that up by saying, I mentioned what my quote was, my actual review, but my star rating, I ended up giving this 3 stars.
Oh,
3 out of 5. Is that how that works? Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
which in retrospect, thinking about it now, I would probably bump that up to like 3.5. But yeah,
Yeah, you sounded way more enthusiastic about
This
it.
is a 3.5.
Yeah, I would probably bump it up to 3.5 because it's like, yeah, I really do like this movie a lot, but it's like, I don't want to give it like 4.5 stars because that's probably what I would give the first one, which is a better
Right.
movie than this one, you know?
That first
Yeah.
one's
So
a 5 out of 5.
like
for
this
me.
is probably
agree.
like a 3, maybe a 3.5. It's a good, very solid, well-made movie that like a lot of people don't give it as much credit as it deserves, and it has more to say than people act like it does. You know?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to wrap it up here, though. We have been here about 4 hours now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's close up shop here. Let's shut down the factory. Let's shut down the refinery.
Sounds good.
On Alien 3. Josh, thank you again for being here and powering through 4 hours with us.
Thank you. Well, as we know, the show itself won't be 4 hours. We spent some preliminary time talking before we hit record, but no problem, man. I was I'm glad you invited me on. I think I just mentioned that I'd seen the movie, and you said, "Hey, why not?" And I love the time spent.
Yeah.
So no worries about the
Everyone-
length, because as you know, combat time, we go over long too.
Boy, do we, especially when I'm on.
I don't think we've done a 3.5 hour one though. I have to look back
Well,
and think.
when do we get to Armageddon?
Oh, wait.
There you
We
go.
definitely have gone
Uh,
3.5 hours before on this show. This is not the first time.
No.
I will ask, you guys are taking me off this prison planet,
Yeah,
right? Since you're shutting
sure.
down the
Yes,
factory and all that.
yes.
I get to come along
We'll
with
drop you
y'all?
off.
We have
somewhere.
the space. Don't worry.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, plenty
All
of room
right.
up here.
No pun intended.
We might engineer Carissa might be banging around somewhere also. I'm not sure.
Yeah, she's somewhere.
All right. I'm sure it's a big ship. Plenty of room for
Correct.
everybody, right?
Yeah.
If you need an engineer, if you need a handyman, I can tighten some bolts. I can pretend
I
I'm
primarily
working.
got that covered, but I could use a hand. All right.
Okay, yeah.
Everyone go subscribe to Combat Time in your podcast apps. Combat Time
Yes,
Pod
yes.
on Twitter. There'll be a link in the show notes here to the Combat Time website. Kenny, where can people find you on the internet?
I am I'm not on every social media site, but all the ones that I'm on, I use the same handle. That handle is at CYHOBBEZ. Of all of them, I use Twitter the most, and I pretty much just post about what I've been playing or watching or what have you.
Nice. You can find me on Twitter at Final Neal and Instagram at Final Neal Retro. I have a Mortal Kombat podcast as well, all about Mortal Kombat movies, TV shows, etc., comic books, stuff that isn't games. You can find that at mkpodquest.com, or links to that show, Combat Time, a few other friends' podcasts, and this one at mortalkombatconquest.ca. We did buy that domain name. Kenny, where can people find this show on the internet?
Nice.
Our website is crewexpendable.net. Our Twitter handle is at crewexpendapod. Our Instagram handle is at crewexpendablepod. And you can send us an email at mother@crewexpendable.net.
Yeah, send us an email if you can really explain the face hugger situation, because it
for
still ain't
sure.
sitting right with me. That's it. We will be back next episode to talk something Alien 3 related. It might be the Gibson Alien 3 stuff, not sure, but there will be something there.
The next episode we have planned out is the various Gibson versions of the Alien 3 script.
There we go. A whole different Alien 3
Nice.
coming at you on the next episode. Until then,
Stay frosty.